This maid came to inform me that the princess wants to talk, but looking at her negative canthal tilt bimbo face, I know she's not up to any good, so I dismiss her, but she keeps pressing. So with no options, I accepted to go. She's inside, you can enter, the maid says. But bro instantly notices a strange purple aura and knows something's up, while the sweet princess at the desk invites him with this innocent Belle Delphine face. She wants our Ligma to step down as a representative of a certain duel and says she will give him anything he wants. But my man has his lust under control and just says no to the booty call, based. The top 0.1% creator is shocked and argues that it would be better for him to be in her graces, and then activates her horny attack perfume. Bro hesitates for a second, but smiles back. No thanks, he says. Now the independent creature is confused. If men don't fall for her charm, how is she going to keep being independent? Damien is teaching us life lessons right now, gang. He knows she's using dark sorcery to create a false affection, but bro has his hands to solve the lust problem, if you know what I mean. I mean that he has a magic protection on his hand, bro. What the fuck are you thinking? He stands up, saying bye. I don't need anything from you, because what I want, you don't have in the first place. She shouts, what do you want so badly? Stone Cold Bro replies, my family's happiness. Holy cow, bro's already better than 99.9% of the MCs out there chasing the booty. He left her rethinking her whole life decisions with one phrase. But the honey evil now knows that he values his family, so she stands and says, if you don't accept, I will crush your family, and before she finishes, he grabs her by the neck and slams that damn witch into the desk, who agonizes and screams. Tightening the grip while she begs to be released, he says, if you say anything about my family again, I will kill you, princess. The question is, though, how we got here? Humans cry at the hands of the zombies while waves of creatures advance. Far away, an explosion sweeps across while two dudes are fighting. Albino Boy slashes forward, but the evil knight defends with ease and explodes his aura, making the so-called strongest sword kneel. Humanity has to stop the strongest of all, the Death Knight. The helmet cracks and falls, and the strange red eye suddenly vanishes, leaving the knight confused. He looks around and sees everything destroyed. While on a pile of human bodies, the Lich rejoices at the end of the kingdom. The king screams on his knees, shouting, asking, how dare you slaughter all of my people? But the monster says that it is time to unify the continent. He calls his demon generals and demands them to bring him the crown. The Death Knight holds it in front of him while the demons compliment the job. For a second, the Lich wants to reward the knight, but then remembers he's just a slave, when suddenly, the knight throws the crown midair, and when the Lich is about to grab it, he cuts it clean in half. The rest of the demons instantly get in front of the skeleton. They know something's up with long hair bro, since he literally struck the Lich in the middle of his chest. And that's when the knight says, finally, I can move by my will. His mind was supposed to be completely wiped. But the protagonist tells him it only looked that way. He never truly lost consciousness. He saw everything while trapped inside that body. Dorgo's stunned. He was seriously the most incredible creation he ever made. As a reward for breaking free, he says he'll let the boy fight a little until he figures out how to enslave him again. The demons charge in, but within seconds, in a single flash of light and a single sword swing, every one of them vanishes into thin air. Dorgo is in disbelief. How could they all be wiped out in just one attack? If that's how it is, then it's time for a change of plans. He raises his arms and spreads out a wave of green energy, commanding everything left to attack. The creatures rush toward the Death Knight, but he just stretches out his hand and tells them all to stop. Then he commands each one to fall into despair. The monsters start to glow, and in the blink of an eye, they dissolve. Now Dorgo is trembling, barely able to stand, trying to understand how this is even possible. He had created a monster powerful enough to rival a god. Trying to calm things down, he says he understands the anger the boy must be feeling. If he were in his place, he wouldn't be able to forgive it either. Dorgo's trying to buy some time. He left behind a few spare bodies, so if he dies in this one, he'll instantly resurrect in another. But the Death Knight speaks up and says that while he was trapped inside this body, he thought of hundreds of ways to kill Dorgo. And that's why he came up with this sword technique, one that doesn't just cut flesh, but slices through souls as well. Dorgo calls it impossible. He's never heard of any sword art like that before, but something starts glowing above his head. He realizes it's far more dangerous than he expected. He tries to destroy his current body to reincarnate elsewhere, but it's too late. The slash has already hit. Then, after the flash of light, he pauses, looks down, and says, I knew it. There's no such thing as a sword technique like that. But as soon as he finishes speaking, his soul starts lifting from his body and drifting toward the sky. The clouds part, and Dorgo's body, along with his soul, explodes midair. All that's left is a skull crashing to the ground. The Death Knight walks up, tells him to go straight to hell, and crushes it underfoot. Next to him, King Howard is trembling, trying to make sense of what just happened. The Death Knight then falls to his knees and says it's finally over. There was only one last thing he needed to do. Even if it was in death, he just wanted to see them one last time. He apologizes to every ally he killed when he lost control of his body. All he wanted was their forgiveness, and with that, he drives the blade into his own chest. His consciousness fades. Then, someone calls out to him. They call him Damien. The voice sounds familiar, like his sister's, and as he slowly opens his eyes, he sees a girl walking toward him. When he sees her blue eyes, he thinks these must be his final moments, visions before falling into hell. but something's off. He asks why she looks so young. She laughs and says he's suddenly laying on the compliments now. Must have caused some kind of mess, huh? Looks like he's afraid of getting scolded and wants protection. Either way, he should trust his big sister. She's here to help. Also, they better get home soon before he catches a cold. She runs ahead, warning that it could start raining any moment. But Damien, staring at the house in front of him, knows for sure he had destroyed this mansion with his own hands. Was he dreaming now? Or was everything he went through just a dream? He sees a branch on the ground and realizes there's only one way to find out. He stops in front of a rock with a stick in hand, takes a stance, and strikes right in the middle. The branch completely breaks apart. Nothing seems to happen. But then he grins and says this is insane. The entire rock explodes in front of him, and there he is laughing with one hand on his face, trying to understand what the hell just happened to him. Rain starts to fall, and he realizes, yep, the kid had gone back in time. The next chapter starts with him saying he had a talent. Someone's yelling at the boy, saying he's lost his mind. Getting kicked out of a tavern for fighting? That's destroying the whole family's honor. His talent? Dragging the family name through the mud. His older brother storms in, demanding to know why. This time, he punched the Marquis's son. Apparently, because of what Damien did, their sister got taken away by that scumbag. Damien's talent really was ruining the entire future of the family. Yeah, the kid was seriously messed up. Now their mom wants to know why he took out a loan with loan sharks using the family's name. This little devil had a gift, not just for wrecking their reputation, but for destroying their fortune too. And of course, all those talents earned him the classic, "Get out of this house, you little brat." As he walks away, his sister calls out to him. She hands him a bit of money, saying maybe it could help him out. All she wanted was for him to find happiness somewhere. Damien can't believe it. This girl's life had been ruined because of him. He hesitates for a second, but then takes the money and runs. That day, he left home like he was escaping for good. And that was the first time he truly understood what guilt and shame felt like. But now that he's come back, he doesn't understand why. At the moment he drove that sword into himself, yeah, he did wish he could apologize to his family. What he didn't expect was to actually be given that chance. Maybe this was what they called a divine miracle. His trembling hand made it obvious. His body couldn't even handle a simple attack while holding a stick. The destructive wave is a technique that amplifies the damage of a strike up to 7 times. A lot of people knew it as the wall breaker. He learned that technique after killing a certain knight. His thoughts are interrupted when someone calls out, "Young master." When he spots the chubby guy, he remembers he was one of the house servants, but he just can't recall the name. After a moment of thinking, he asks if he's Victor. The boy says yeah, and asks why the young master is still outside. Miss Louise told him to come inside right away. Seems like the master's fury has hit its limit. Damien asks if he did something wrong. Victor, confused, wants to know if he seriously doesn't remember. Back in the mansion, someone's already yelling, "You bastard," and charging in with a sword. The protagonist manages to dodge, but the man doesn't exactly look calm. Both daughters are holding their father back, begging him to stop hitting the boy. He's shouting that this damn brat has lost his mind again, got himself kicked out of a tavern. Once again, the family's name is being dragged through the mud by his actions. The girls try to restrain him while their father yells that this kid needs, at the very least, a good head adjustment. But Damien, he actually missed getting chewed out like this. He's shaking and can't even hold back the tears. Paul, the father, wants to know what excuse he's got this time. He better speak up because he's gonna get smacked either way. But Damien says straight up that he doesn't have an excuse. Paul's already ready to snap back that that's not good enough, but then pauses, caught off guard. Wait, did he just admit it? He blurts out that this is impossible. Where are the pathetic, never-ending excuses he always gave to try to weasel out of trouble? But Damien simply says that his actions brought shame to the house. There's nothing to defend. Paul scoffs, saying he's full of it now, thinking he can get away with this just by spouting that kind of nonsense. But Damien bows and says this time he'll fix it. Everyone's confused as he turns and walks out, saying he's going to make up for everything he's done. And once he's put it all right, then he'll come back for his punishment. He's got this new glow about him, but the whole family's clearly not buying it. Paul just wants to know, did he get beat up real bad at the tavern today or something? Someone messed with his brain. The scene shifts to the commercial city of Landwork. Hiding behind a wall, Victor whispers that they've arrived, but he seriously advises Damien not to go in there. There are rumors that place is now under the control of the biggest criminal organization around, and chances are, walking in means big trouble. But Damien just starts walking. Says if Victor's scared, he can stay behind. No need to worry, he's just going to apologize to the owner and leave. What's the worst that could happen, right? Victor's pretty sure a lot of bad things could happen. As he heads toward the tavern, Damien still has no idea why he was sent back to the past. But this was his chance, not to make the same mistakes again, to fix every single thing he'd done. And it all started with this tavern. The guys out front wearing bandanas immediately tell the noble kid to stand still and want to know what he's doing back here. One of them says, "Yo, I already told you, you're not supposed to show your face around here again." Damien thinks to himself, it's been so long I barely even remember, but at the same time, these guys feel kind of familiar. So he speaks up, "All right, fellas, I'm here to apologize for what I did last time." The guys stare at him, then burst out laughing, asking if he seriously came all the way here just to apologize. "Don't worry about it," one of them says. "You can leave now and we'll make sure the boss gets your message." The guy on the right chuckles and tells him to drop the whole polite, noble act Everyone knows he's the trash son of a trash family. The only good thing that family has is one of the young ladies who just so happens to be drop-dead gorgeous. The one with the bandana slaps his own face and says, out of nowhere, he's suddenly in the mood to accept an apology. Why doesn't Damien go bring that pretty little sister of his so they can make her cry a little? Damien just sighs, saying this world really is something else. Then he grabs the knife right out of the first guy's hand and calmly says he's just trying to leave, so how about they accept his apology and let him go? The guy with the bandana points at him, calling him crazy. But Damien wasn't called the Death Knight for nothing. Without hesitation, he slashes the first guy's hand clean off. The guy looks down, stunned, unable to believe what he's seeing on the ground. He collapses, writhing in pain, completely lost as to why Damien would do that. The other thug pulls out his sword, saying Damien's going to regret this. But Damien says it's time to show them what kind of man the eldest son of House Haskin really is. From a distance, Victor is absolutely freaking out, crying and shaking, wondering why Damien started this fight. Naturally, the ruckus is starting to attract everyone's attention. The guy in the bandana is seething, sword raised, thinking he can actually do something. Damien says he's just going to finish what he started. The thug tells him to take a good look at the snake tattoo on his arm. They're part of the Black Serpent, and nobody walks away clean after messing with them. That's when it clicks. Damien remembers. The Black Serpent was expanding their influence around this time. This was one of the taverns they had under their thumb. Back then, he complained that their prices were outrageous, and in return, they punched him in the face. He got beaten and humiliated in front of the whole tavern. Now that he remembers, he realizes he's the one who deserves the apology. Man and hero is thinking he was the one brawling in the bar, when really, he was the one getting stomped on. The other guy still won't back down, waving that sorry excuse of sword around. Of course, the second I say that, he charges straight in like a fool. But Damien, being the swordsman he is, he's practically a barber. Trimmed a few hairs on the way down. One tap to the shin and boom, face plants right onto the pavement. His nose is already swelling up, and Damien says that honestly, killing everyone here wouldn't even be enough. That's why he's just going to slice off a little something for the sake of the family. Man, he even cuts the guy's heel clean through. Brutal. I respect it. Someone in the crowd whispers, who the hell is this kid? More mercenaries show up, already assuming he's been sent by some rival gang and demand he identify himself. But Damien tells them flat out he's not with any other group. He just came to receive his apology. Of course, the guy acts clueless and says he doesn't know what the hell Damien's talking about, but warns that if he doesn't shut his mouth, he's going to get the crap beaten out of him. Then he orders the rest of the crew to take him down. 3 nobodies against the main character. Come on. What do you think is going to happen? In a flash, Damien slices through all of them. This time, looks like he didn't go for the throat. They're all just knocked out cold. Still, he's annoyed, tired from dealing with these low-tier thugs. That's when their so-called leader pipes up, admitting he was wrong and begs for forgiveness. That he bolts like a scared kid. But guess what? Damien gives chase. Tag, you're it. And judging by the look of it, he caught him with the tip of his blade. The bar was enjoying a real nice vibe until the whole place turned toward the door. There stands the leader of the mercenaries, drenched in blood, saying he misjudged Damien's strength. I thought it was just going to be a clean headshot, but maybe not. Or maybe yes. Honestly, I don't even know if this kid's killing people or just messing with them. But what I do know is, he says they should have listened while he was still being nice. He wipes the blood off his face. And at that point, of course, the entire crowd panics and runs for their lives. I swear, for some reason, I really thought this kid was just gonna go to the bar and talk to the guys or something, you know. But nope. He already wiped the floor with everyone, and now he's walking in to start a full-on mess. The owner appears on the second floor, totally clueless about the chaos below, shouting, what the hell's going on down there, and where are the guards? And the artist decides now is the perfect time to switch fonts to something completely unreadable. I'm staring at some kind of ancient hieroglyphs, trying to make out the name. I think it's Anderholm. No clue. Damien calls up and tells him that if he's waiting on the guards outside, don't bother, he already dealt with them. Ander looks down at the mercenaries collapse all over the place and realizes the Black Serpent has been cut down. He just wants to know why the kid's making a mess of other people's business. The protagonist introduces himself as Damien Haskin and says he's not here to start trouble. He just came for an apology. The prices for drinks in this place are stupidly expensive, and when he complained about it, the thugs beat him like a dog and threw him out. Thanks to that, he went home with a rep as a drunk and a loser who got his butt kicked. Of course, his father didn't take it well, and now Damien's back to take back everything he lost. Ander says, so what? You're here for your honor? Maybe it's just because he's older now, but he doesn't get why Damien even cares. Far as he's concerned, House Haskin didn't have any honor to lose in the first place. He taps his cane and tells Damien he's a fool if he really thought he'd come in here and get an apology. Damien grins and says that's a shame, because now they'll have to settle this another way. The kid goes full Parker King, 2 stomps on the floor, bounces off a chair and a table, and in a flash, he's on the second floor. He tells Ander those are going to be his last words. He lunges in to finish him off, but suddenly someone steps forward and blocks the attack. Damien immediately senses a strange energy and gets knocked back down to the first floor. Ander thanks the newcomer for showing up just in time, while our boy is stunned. Someone with that level of skill is working in a place like this. Why the hell is there a night gear? This dude, looking like the budget version of The Witcher, is just staring him down. In this world, knight is a high rank. You start as a trainee, then apprentice, and eventually become a full-fledged knight. A proper knight can use aura freely, energy strong enough to slice a mountain in half with a single sword. These were people who'd already transcended human limits. Anders smiles and confirms it. Sir Ted is an apprentice knight and the boss of the Black Serpent, and the fact that he's here means the kid's already dead. Damien shrugs and says, "That's a shame. So he's just an apprentice, huh? That explains why that aura I felt was so weak." Ted's confused. How the hell did the kid even sense his aura? He hadn't even fully unleashed it yet. Damien figures it out. It makes sense now why someone like him is working in a dump like this. Clearly, the guy didn't have enough talent to become a real knight. He probably got kicked out of his apprenticeship and ended up here. Ander, not amused, asks Ted how much he wants to get rid of this brat. Ted just says, "We'll talk payment later," and growls that first he's gonna shut that arrogant mouth. Damien looks up just in time to see the massive sword swinging down toward his face. One quick step back dodged. Ted resets and launches another series of heavy strikes. Even with a huge blade coming at him, Damien is managing to defend himself with just a small sword. Ted slashes again, and our guy backs off once more. Unfortunately, his body's starting to wear out. He'd just reincarnate after all. Physically, he's still running on scraps. Ted's getting pissed, yelling that Damien's a damn rat and he wants to see him dodge this. He starts charging up a special move that puts Damien on high alert. The guy just uses secret technique and comes in with a deadly thrust. Damien braces, tilts his head slightly, closes his eyes, and says, "Guess I'll have to respond to the technique of my own." The scene suddenly shifts. We cut to some bald guy getting killed and a maniac going on a rampage, yelling that he doesn't take orders from Dorgo. Besides, he doesn't want to wipe out all of humanity after all. Who would he have left to kill? That one right there was the master of the Sword of Death, known as Salmangui, a legendary assassin. He looks over his shoulder, points his sword at the protagonist, and tells him to stop being useless and say something. Otherwise, he's dead right now. Of course, Damien stays silent and Salmangui gets ready, saying that if that's how it's gonna be, then he's got one more person to kill. And as his final death gift, they'll bring a secret technique down to the underworld with him. It's a technique that lets him see the human body as being made entirely of water. And once you grasp that, your blade flows with a calamity slash technique. Even a wooden sword could slice someone clean in half. You might have thought he'd landed the kill, but obviously, the Death Knight pulls himself back together. In the very same second, he locks eyes with the guy, and it's clear he's already understood the technique that was just used on him. And yeah, he fires it right back. Only this time, that guy's not getting back up. With his head flying through the air, he's left wondering how someone stole his secret technique so easily. Now, Ted's got the same look on his face. His body, split open down the chest, drops right in the middle of the tavern. Meanwhile, Damien calmly says that it's always the same. In the moment of death, they all look at him with that same expression like they can't believe it's real. The longer he lived as the Death Knight, the stronger he became. And the height of that growth was his ability to absorb the techniques and skills of his enemies and make them his own. Back up on the second floor, Ander is just standing there, absolutely terrified. Next scene, he's drenched in sweat, head smashed against the floor, begging for forgiveness with the whole gang beside him. He's already handed over all of Barney's treasure, saying he hopes it'll be enough to please Damien's father. Damien thinks to himself that he only came here to get an apology, but hey, money never hurts. He says it's not quite enough, but he'll let it slide. Then he looks toward the exit and tells Victor to quit hiding like a coward and come grab the loot. The chubby guy starts collecting everything, and honestly, if he hadn't seen all of this with his own eyes, he wouldn't believe a word of it. Since when was young Master Damien so damn good with a sword? On their way out, the defeated mercenaries are all bowing and wishing him safe travels. Victor's already celebrating, saying he's never seen this much treasure in his life. But of course, scum is still scum. And Ander is already vowing to get back everything he just handed over to that bastard. All he has to do is inform the head of the Black Serpent. Only before he can even move, swoosh, something brushes past his ear and suddenly, it's gone. Damien calmly says they better go ahead and warn the Black Serpent. Because if anyone lays a finger on his family, he's not just going to stand by. Ander's now crying and swearing that he's going to kill this kid. On the way home, Damien reflects that he knows he can't erase the mistakes of his past life. But in this new one, with this second chance, he no longer wants to disappoint his family. The scene shifts to the Lionbloom household. Someone with a swollen face calls for his brother and says, "You know what they say, love comes with pain." The guy lying down asks what the hell he's talking about with his hand on his face. What, is he heading out for a duel or something? The kid turns and says no, he's going out to look for love. Nobody really gets what that's supposed to mean, but let's be honest. These two are definitely gonna be trouble for our boy later on. Back at Damien's mansion, he's walking down the hallway after waking up from a long night. Victor's amazed he was even able to sleep after causing all that chaos, because this is definitely gonna be the talk of the town. Damien tells him to relax. The goal hasn't changed from the beginning, but the reward turned out better than expected. And more than anything, what he really wants is for the rumor to spread. Someone messed with the eldest son of House Haskin and ended up ruined. That would earn the family a bit more respect, and at the very least, might help shake off his delinquent label. In my opinion, let's be real, he's probably more of a delinquent now. But hey, let the guy have his plan. That's when Victor says that up until now everything's fine, but the real problem is that Damien messed with the Black Serpent and those guys aren't exactly known for letting things slide. Damien tells him to calm down. Those guys are cowards, and besides, if they try anything, he'll handle it. Victor nods slowly, then says that's actually what he wanted to talk about. When exactly did Damien learn swordsmanship? All flustered and dodging the question, Damien says he trained a little here, a little there, and somehow ended up like this. Then someone suddenly calls out to him. It's his dad, charging in full speed, wanting to know where the hell he was all day yesterday. He grabs Damien by the shoulder and demands to know what kind of accident he caused this time. But Damien turns to Victor and tells him to show what he brought. The moment the bag of gold appears, his father's expression shifts completely and his mom, barely holding herself together, is practically glowing. She faints right there while Damien casually explains that he went to the tavern, sorted everything out, and even came back with some money. Apparently, the folks there were just so moved by his arrival. The dad's already raising an eyebrow. That story makes zero sense. Why would the tavern owner just hand over that much money? But Damien loops Victor in, saying he should just ask him. He shoots him a wink like, back me up here. Victor says, yeah, it's true. The tavern owner really was a very kind man. Damien's mom adds that it does sound believable. Meanwhile, Victor's just standing there, realizing the young master dragged him right into this mess. And more than that, he's noticed something. Every time Damien opens his mouth lately, it's just lie after lie. Outside, our boy starts the day like a true David Goggins wannabe, hitting the road hard to work on his physical endurance. He can't believe this body is so weak that even a short jog is draining him. But then he pulls a potion from his pocket, saying at least he managed to get this. And where did he get it from? Obviously, from that chump Ander. He asked for everything the guy had, and Ander handed over what he claimed was a tonic from the Alchemy Academy, something that boosts stamina and vitality. Damien's curious what this Alchemy Academy even is. And guess what? Not gonna tell you right now. But just know, potions from that place were famous enough to be traded for rare gems of equal weight. Damien wasn't expecting to find a treasure like this on someone like Ander. He takes a big gulp right away, and yeah, the effect lives up to the hype. His first goal now is to reach the same kingdom he was in during his past life. Why? Because soon, alongside that bastard Dorgo, the undead are going to start walking this land again. And he needs to be strong enough to kill that guy before he shows up, just like he did at the end of his last life. Back then, Dorgo lingered on Earth for over 10 years, so Damien knows he'll have to seriously speed up his progress this time around. It's the only way to protect the peace and happiness of this home. He takes a deep breath and jumps right back into training. In this life, Dorgo wasn't going to stand a chance. The scene shifts to the landwork region at the Black Serpent's base. And let me just say, I love how their secret hideout is literally a giant tower with a massive black snake wrapped around it. Super subtle. No one's ever gonna suspect that. Inside, some dude built like a double Big Mac is ranting about how all of this is pointless. He was the best mercenary they'd ever hired, and now it's just a waste. Ted's there too. Yeah, that Ted. The one Damien practically erased. One of the guys nearby asks if they should try to get him some medical help, but Cedric Walker just says to throw him out. The guy lost to some random nobody. He's useless. Someone else asks if he's really sure about that, and Cedric confirms it. Just toss him somewhere. Doesn't matter where. A dog that's already served its purpose doesn't need to stick around. He walks off, but right then, Ted stands up. Says that now he understands how it all ends. Cedric laughs, saying he didn't think the bastard had the strength to even get back up. Alright, fine. This time, whatever. They'll treat him, and hire him one more time. Now that Ted got wrecked by the protagonist, it's time for him to get stomped by a side character too, so he charges in again. But just as he moves, his attack is stopped by a strange black aura grabbing hold of his ankle. He starts getting pulled in. Looks like he's being devoured seriously. This creepy old guy in a hood shows up and tells him he better stay right where he is. Ted tries to say something, but the guy starts chanting some demonic high rod lift nonsense, and boom, a demon pops up right behind him and spits acid straight onto his shoulder. Before he can even react, he's completely devoured from every angle. Only thing left behind is his little foot. Even Cedric plugs his nose, saying whatever that power was, it stinks. The creepy guy asks if he's satisfied, and Cedric says yeah, but maybe next time don't leave anything behind. Right after that, Cedric brings up a certain someone who's apparently been acting against their organization. It's a noble, so dealing with him directly is a bit more complicated. Still, the order stands, take him out. The more pain he suffers, the more profit Cedric earns. He tosses over a sack of money, saying that's an advance payment. The hooded man replies that he can count on him, he's going to handle it right now. But by the next chapter, Damien's already out there hitting leg day, so he better be quick. The potion's still working great, his stamina just keeps going up. What's strange is that nothing's happened yet. He figures the Black Serpent should have come after him by now. Then suddenly, he hears something rustling in the bushes. A massive hand shoots out, grabs him by the neck. But it turns out to be this guy Abel, all twisted looking. Apparently, that's his brother, and the dude immediately wants to know since when Damien's gotten so strong. He swears it felt like his neck was about to snap. Damien, though, suddenly remembers. This is the one whose head got torn off at some point, maybe by him. He hesitates for a second, reaches out a hand, and apologizes, saying it was an accident. But Abel just looks away and says he's not here for an apology. He heard from their dad that Damien went to the tavern and made them all apologize. But then he found out that, apparently, there was a fight and those guys got beat up. He says Damien can't do that, so if he told their dad anything like that, he's lying. Their dad, though, super proud, says no, he's not lying. He went down there himself and beat up everyone. Abel doesn't believe it. Says Damien never even knew how to fight, so clearly he must have hired someone to do it. Damien denies it, but Abel won't let up. He tells him to stop getting involved in this kind of mess and to stop dragging shame back to the family. Everyone else has to clean up the disasters he leaves behind. But then, out of nowhere, Damien gently pats his cheek, thinking to himself, this guy's always been the straight-laced type. He really cares about the family. So he tells him not to worry. There won't be any more problems from now on. And just as he says that, Victor shows up saying something terrible just happened. Down one of the mansion's hallways, Damien opens the door, and there's a guy sitting casually sipping tea with a sword at his side. Their father calls out to Damien. Yeah, this is that same guy who was in the room earlier with Damien's brother. Remember that confusing scene? Looks like Damien was hoping this wouldn't happen so soon, but sure enough, he's already got beef with that bastard Yoan Lionbloom. Yoan tells him he should remember very well what happened at their last social gathering. At that event, Yoan claimed he didn't mean anything by it and apologized if Damien felt offended. But Damien was drunk and immediately snapped, told him to stop talking trash about his family and especially about his eyes. Yoan told him to calm down, said he was clearly too drunk. He leaned in and whispered, but what are you gonna do if I keep insulting this family of bastards? Now, the smarter move would have been for Damien to just hold back. But nope, he landed a punch straight to the guy's nose. Yoan stumbled back with a grin on his face. Honestly, Blondie got lucky. If this had been Damien 2.0, his head would have been ripped clean off. Obviously, now in the present, our boy knows this bastard took that punch on purpose, just to stir up all this chaos. And here comes that smug piece of work, Yoan. The reason he did it, clear as day. He says they can leave all that nonsense behind, since he's long admired Miss Louise. The father asks him to explain himself, and of course, Yoan says he's here to ask permission to marry her. Dear God, our boy really dragged his sister into a mess this time. And Damien already expected this. That scumbag pulled the exact same move in his past life. Yoan's basically blackmailing them, saying that if they agree to the marriage, they can just treat this whole incident as a harmless little family dispute, nothing serious. Thank God Damien's father has at least some principles and turns him down. Apparently, Louise is already seeing someone, and he's not about to let his daughter's relationship be thrown away like that. But, of course, our Pikachu-haired clown wants to know how they plan on making up for the humiliation of him getting punched in the face. He says they'd better choose wisely. Paul knows the Lionblooms are one of the most influential families in this region of the Apple, but even so, he's not handing over his daughter to this trash. Then, she walks into the room and says it's fine. She accepts the proposal. And that's when I realize this big sis, who acts all polite and composed, she's dangerous. Naturally, the parents are freaking out, asking what the hell Louise is talking about. Abel tells her not to worry, this was all Damien's fault, so he should be the one to fix it. And Damien's standing there, struggling to hold himself back. Come on, Damien, just pull your sword and slice that Blondie's neck. Problem solved. Louise, however, gives a fake little smile and says it's fine. She's willing to join her life with Lord Yoan. The bastard's grinning, already standing up, saying she really is a wise and clever lady. She even says someone will send over the formal marriage arrangements soon. But then, bam, a wall shows up between them. Hey, Blondie. You're tapping him on the shoulder, asking what Damien thinks, huh? They're gonna start calling each other brothers-in-law now. Louise is quietly begging Damien to stay calm. He's murmuring something under his breath. Yoan leans in, asking what he's saying. And bam, one more punch, dead center on the chin. Damien thinks to himself, back then, maybe the smart thing was to hold back. But not anymore. Now the game's changed, he doesn't have to take this kind of crap from anyone. Flashback time. A while back, the butlers were announcing that Louise's carriage had arrived. Damien went running all excited, saying it had been so long since he'd seen her. He opened the door all cheerful, only to see her being dragged by the hair. Damien was the one dragging her, yelling that someone filthy like her didn't have the right to abandon him. He threw her to the floor and said that today, when they got back, she'd be trained. Actually, forget today, looked like it was starting right now. He put on the gloves and started beating her. Damien dropped to his knees, crushed. Honestly, this was worse than catching your girlfriend cheating. It was his sister, getting beaten by the guy he let her end up with. The kid suffered. At the very least, he swore he'd never forgive Yoan. Back to the present, he tells the bastard to get out. And of course, the idiot lands flat on his back. A knight enters the room, asking what happened, and sees a young master collapse. They immediately point swords at Damien, asking if he did this. Yoan starts getting back up, laughing like the Joker, draws his sword and says, not once, but twice, you got the nerve to strike my face. The whole family is in shock. He raises his blade and says this is it. His desire to kill has reached its limit. The house guards step in, telling him to stand down. They'll handle this. But Yoan tells them to get out of his way, only to get stonewalled by a knight who tells him he's not going anywhere. Except, Yoan punches that knight so hard he explodes into the wall. What the hell? I thought this blonde clown was weak. And now, Yoan steps forward with his sword already drawn, calling out Damien Haskin by name and demanding to know how he plans on resolving this situation. Louise knows there's no way in hell Yoan is letting Damien off the hook. She steps in ready to apologize and say it was all a misunderstanding. But Damien calmly tells her to stay quiet, says it's all good, Big Brother's got this. Then he challenges that fool to a duel. He says it'll be a straightforward sword match. If Damien loses, Yoan can do whatever he wants. But if Damien wins, then Owen has to forget everything that happened here. Yoan doesn't look too eager, says there's not much in it for him. So Damien pushes him, asking if he's backing out because he's scared of losing. Yoan's head is practically steaming at this point. This damn kid sucker punched him twice and is now acting like he's all that. But maybe, just maybe, this is the perfect opportunity. He accepts the duel, already planning to leave Damien paralyzed for life. I thought they'd set a date or something, but nope, it's happening right now. They're face to face, ready to go. Damien's mom speaks up, wondering if they shouldn't stop this madness. But Paul says it's too late for that now. All they can do is pray for some miracle they'll keep Damien from dying. Abel watches from the side, knowing full well Damien has no shot. That twisted blonde bastard's already a full knight. Yoan asks how Damien even plans to fight. He doesn't have a sword. And this is where the author clearly got a little too excited, because Damien pulls out a fork, says this is all he needs. Yoan's laughing. The family's speechless. No one has any idea what the hell this lunatic is thinking. Yoan says, well, that explains everything. Clearly the boy's insane. He charges in while Damien calmly warns he's not gonna hold back just because he's using a fork. On the first strike, Damien dodges it easily with a simple step back. Yoan switches his grip and unleashes a flurry of slashes using the lion's roar technique. The blast kicks up a cloud of smoke, but once it clears, Damien's still standing totally fine. Even if Yoan's mites are shaken, how did the kid not get hit once? Yoan realizes that somehow Damien managed to dodge every single one of his attacks. Damien thinks to himself if it had been some unknown technique, maybe it would have been tougher. But the Lionbloom family's sword style, he already mastered that. That's because there's someone named Michael Lionbloom, the true master of that style, who Damien fought countless times in his past life. And there's no denying it now. Yoan will never reach that man's level. The guy's shaking, laughing like a lunatic, saying Damien just got lucky dodging that one. But now he's not getting away. That's when Damien notices Yoan's activated his aura. Things just got serious. As Yoan closes in for the next slash, Damien decides it's time to use one of the Sword Saint's techniques. And yep, he does it with the fork. Next thing you know, Yoan's sword is locked against the fork stuck. Damien gives it a twist, it disarms him completely. Now Owen's the one trembling, and Damien lunges, gives him a farewell jab right to the throat. Whoa, hold up, everybody freezes. Thankfully it landed just beside the neck, almost. Yoan hits the floor, literally pisses himself. Meanwhile, Damien's thinking he can't kill this guy. Not yet, because his brother's going to attack this house soon, and if he kills Yoan now, the whole family dies. So instead, he just says the duel is over. The result's clear. Yoan has no right to complain. As agreed, he'd better disappear from this place. And just like that, the blonde puddle walks himself home. Later that day at dinner, Damien thanks everyone and quietly gets up, saying he's going to bed early to train tomorrow. No one says a word. He just walks off. Damien's mom turns to her husband, asking if he's really not going to ask what happened. Abel comments that his brother never knew a thing about swordsmanship. He was even worse than him in a fight. For someone like that to beat Yoan, it's like he became a completely different person overnight. Paul, however, says that for now, the best option is to pretend they don't know anything. When the time is right, maybe Damien will tell them everything on his own. The mother looks a little surprised, while Paul admits he's really curious too, wondering how all of this even happened. Because honestly, he's afraid of his own son right now. What if he asks and ends up triggering that boy again? The beating Damien gave was so brutal even his dad is scared of him now. The next morning, our very own Rock Lee ties weights to his ankles to start his training. But just as he's heading out, guess who calls him? Louise shows up bringing him a little sword. Hold up, why is she all red in the face? Girl, please. This isn't Alabama. Cut it out. Go find yourself another guy and let Damien go after someone he can actually do something with. Damien starts apologizing, saying he acted badly and put her in a tough spot. He swears it'll never happen again. But she says that, actually, she came to thank him. She was terrified even when she said she'd go along with Yoan. Damien's thinking, so it's confirmed she really didn't like that creep. Well, yeah, you think she was smiling while getting dragged around by the hair that day. While he's reflecting on that, he realizes, deep down he was happy, because he defended her. And it made her feel protected. She thanks him again. He gets a bit flustered and says it's fine, he's always grateful for her too. Ah, sweet. He turns around and says it's time for training. But before he goes, she tells him to take the sword. Seems their father gave it to her to pass on, hoping it'd help with his training. Right now, Damien looks like a Michelin mascot with those weights strapped on his legs, just confused why she'd bring this now. She tells him it's ridiculous for the son of a baron to be out there fighting with a fork just because he doesn't own a proper blade. He grips the sword and says he agrees, then thanks his father, who's currently off polishing weapons and wondering if he made a huge mistake. Later that same day, close to nightfall, a strange black mist creeps toward the mansion. The guards outside are chilling, until the mist swirls around their feet, and suddenly, they drop like flies. The gate creaks open, and who strolls in? That weirdo in the hood. He starts moving down the hallways while Abel and the rest of Damien's family are still fast asleep. Hey jerks, can you stop going after the sister already? Back up with those creepy little fingers. Yeah, I always see you eyeing her and mumbling how beautiful she is. Better watch that hand. Looks like it's about to get chopped off. Damien shows up at the door, asking what the hell the guy thinks he's doing. He felt a weird energy in the house and came to check it out, and yep, there's definitely someone shady sneaking around. The hooded man is confused. He cast a sleep spell over the whole place. So how is this kid still standing like nothing happened? He quickly turns, saying he'll have to eliminate Damien before anyone else wakes up. Then he fires off a one-handed Kamehameha-style blast. Damien sidesteps it, and the guy's shocked he actually dodged it. Damien demands to know who he is, why he's in the house, and especially why he went straight to his sister's room. Just then, they both hear voices calling out, asking what's going on in Louise's room. Of course, his dumb blast woke up the very people he put to sleep. The hooded guy clicks his tongue, saying there'll be a problem if too many people see him. What a shame. This meeting ends here. He vanishes into the shadows, slipping out the window. Damien watches him retreat but notices that some of the guy's energy is still lingering nearby. And that wasn't just any energy. The next morning, over by the stables, some workers find a dead horse. Apparently, it was one of the most valuable ones they had. They're freaking out. How are they supposed to tell the Baron about this? What's weird is the horse was totally fine yesterday, running like a beast. So how the hell did this happen? Right then, Damien shows up behind them and startles them. Says he sensed something bad. He tells the stable hands not to worry. No one's going to blame them. But he needs them to clear out for a bit. Following the lingering trace of that guy's mana, Damien finds the dead horse in the stables. And now he's absolutely certain this weird aura is dark magic. The rest of the family didn't pick up on it last night, and maybe it's best not to get them worried just yet, especially considering he can already see where this is going. Deep in a cave hidden in the forest, the hooded creep is laughing to himself, saying that idiot from the Black Serpent really bought everything he asked for. He told him it was just ingredients for a certain curse, but now he's stocked up on materials for a long time. Still, it makes him realize he really is getting old and worn out, taking jobs from people like that just for a handful of coins. But hey, he doesn't have many options. That curse cult is hunting him down now. For the time being, he'll have to keep a low profile. Well, looks like someone found your little hideout, and that profile is about to be real low, like 6 feet under low. Damien's already at the entrance, asking what an old man like him is doing living out here all alone. The cloaked guy immediately recognizes him. He's that cursed hair of House Haskin. He asks how Damien even found this place. Damien simply replies that it wasn't hard, he just followed the stench. The hooded man looks thrown off and asks if Damien's also the one who picked a fight with the Black Serpent. Well, now it's clear he's not just some pampered brat. Damien cuts him off, saying he knows he was probably hired by the Black Serpent. The man confirms it. Damien replies that it's pathetic. Of all the jobs he could have taken, he picked a bottom-tier one like this, and it's going to cost him his life. Salmingwee raises his arms, saying we'll see if he still talks like that after the torture begins. As Damien draws his sword, he mutters that he made a vow not to kill people unnecessarily. But of course, there are exceptions for dark mages like him. The man's shocked he figured out his class so quickly. As he launches his magic circles, he shouts that Damien has to die here. But Damien rushes straight through the barrage, getting up close right to the gut. He slashes. A flash of purple aura bursts out, and the mage's body crumbles away. Damien recognizes it instantly. It's the same energy he saw back at the mansion. It's strange, though, someone this skilled accepting such a garbage job. The mage's voice echoes through the mist, laughing, saying that kind of attack won't work on him. But then, slash. Damien's sword goes right through again. He follows up with a full combo, declaring he'll grind him to dust. The mage compliments his attitude, says he's brave. But it's a shame. The moment Damien stepped into this cave, he became a dead man walking. Dark energy erupts from the ground, spreading to his arms and legs. Monstrous creatures appear from every direction. All of them were traps already prepared in advance. Damien realizes this situation just got way more dangerous than he wanted. The mage calmly says this is the price for picking a fight with the commander of Yoan. Now Damien would be dissolved completely, down to the last atom. The smoke turns into a cocoon, trapping him inside. The mage walks toward it, saying the arrogant ones are always the dumbest. All Damien did was speed up his own death. He remembers that the chubby guy said the more extreme the death, the better the payout. Erasing the kid completely, yeah, that should do it. And now that he's done with him, it's time to go track down that woman from yesterday. But from inside the cocoon, Damien's voice cuts through. This corrosion curse is pretty interesting. The mage turns, and everything's been annihilated. He stares in disbelief. How did the kid survive without a scratch? Damien notices the guy's already shaken, and to be honest, he's a little surprised too. For some reason, the authority he received from Dorgo is still active. Then we flash back to when it was implanted, a divine ability. One that allows the user to call upon the power of the gods. Dorvo turns back and calls out to his beloved Death Knight, reminding him that he gave him the most powerful body, equipped with the strongest spells. And still, it wasn't enough. He needed to be ultimate blade, evil incarnate in the flesh. That's why Dorgo was going to give him the power to become the absolute weapon. His blood is spilled into a ritual bowl, and from it, a purple light bursts out. He's immediately confused. He hadn't expected the authority to actually awaken. He clasps his hands together, channeling the energy straight into Damien's body. And Dorgo realizes this power is way beyond anything he imagined. Damien screams as he absorbs it all, practically glowing like a damn spotlight. And Dorgo knows without a doubt, so long as this soldier exists, he'll carry the authority of the gods. Back in the present, Damien is certain this is the power of greed, the gift he received from that man. He'd assumed it disappeared when he returned to this timeline, but clearly that wasn't the case. Another spell comes flying overhead, but Damien dodges back just in time. Salmangwe wants to know how the hell he survived that last spell. Damien simply says everyone's got their trump cards, right? But deep down, he's still processing the fact this guy called himself one of the commanders of Yoan, an assassination group specialized in dark magic. Now it all makes sense. No wonder he was so skilled. The hooded man grins, saying Damien's little ace is pretty interesting. He had been saving this next move for when he fought the cult, but looks like he'll have to use it now. A bracelet on his wrist begins to glow. Green fire erupts, consuming the whole cave. The guy's eyes go completely white as he starts chanting something, and Damien knows it immediately. That's an artifact. One of those items designed to store and release raw mana. Salmangwe summons a massive creature, warning that he doesn't know how Damien survived the last spell. But this time, he's not getting out alive. He orders the monster to unleash hellfire and burn Damien to ashes. The attack looks like it hits directly. Damien vanishes. The hooded freak laughs. No one survives a hit from eternal flame, except, obviously, Damien is still standing there. And he calmly says, no, that's not how this ends. Salmangwe watches in shock as power didn't do anything. The flames are swirling around Damien, not burning him at all. And Damien explains this authority he carries absorbs all forms of dark mana. Salmangwe demands to know how some noble kid could have power like that. But Damien just replies, that's not your business. Only thing you need to worry about is that this is your funeral. He hadn't wanted to use this disgusting energy. It's the one he wants to get rid of the most. But if he doesn't use this, he'd be forced to resort to the Death Knight's techniques. And those are even worse. Salmangwe spots the sword charged with energy. That's a level above even elite knights. Only a sword master can call forth something like that. And right then, Damien unleashes a slash straight at him. Salmangwe has no time to react. He gets split clean in half. The entire cave starts crumbling around them. And our boy, he's just walking out like it's no big deal. You guys don't remember because I didn't post it, but in the last chapter, the protagonist had ended things right when he killed Salmangwe. The poor guy took an arrow to the head and got torn in half. The whole cave started exploding while Damien was in full aura farmer mode. He pointed his sword at Salmangwe's head and said, if you tell me before you die, I'll make you suffer less. Where is the Black Snake's hideout? With that, the scene shifts to Landwork, a merchant city. Victor asks, Master, what happened? Why do you want to go back to Landwork? Damien laughs and says, my most loyal servant, if you're going to follow me, then follow quietly. Suddenly, out of nowhere, he throws an insult. Victor says, it's good to see you're alright, but that book you're reading looks kind of creepy. Damien shows the book and asks if he's focused on that. He explains it's just a black magic grimoire he got recently. He doesn't say it, but obviously he got it after killing Salmangwe. Victor is thinking, yeah, right. Then he says, I may be an idiot, but I know full well that a black grimoire is extremely dangerous and hard to get. But what's that smell? The moment he asks, the whole carriage starts shaking. They stop because they finally arrived. Damien gets down and says they've reached the place, then hands a bag to Victor. Here, take this and don't worry about anything. The boy asks, but what is this? He just says, relax, it's only someone's head. Victor opens the bag saying, Master, you're funny, until he sees the head staring back at him. He's about to throw it away, but Damien stops him. Tells him to keep quiet while the kid is practically hyperventilating. Victor asks for an explanation, but Damien says he'll explain later. For now, he needs him to do something. He has to deliver those two things to the place he mentioned. It's the only way they won't run into trouble. The boy is terrified. The scene shifts to the Black Snake base, extremely well hidden. They definitely didn't draw a giant snake on an isolated tower. Damien approaches saying, no way these bandits set up their headquarters right in the city easy to see. The men have no idea what's going on. Who are you, you idiot? He just answers, I'm Damien Haxon of the Haxon family. The men pause for a second and say, Haxon? That name reminds me of a pig's foot. That guy's name is Trash. And who are you supposed to be, idiot? Suddenly, one of them changes his expression. Wait, I think this is the guy the new boss was talking about. Damien responds, well, looks like you already know who I am. I've got business with your boss, so get out of my way. The protagonist thinks they'll listen peacefully, but one of the men grabs a weapon, fires a flare into the sky, and laughs. What, you thought we'd just let you walk in? Immediately, men start appearing on rooftops all around the area, everyone moving at once. The man says, how about it? The boss prepared a little gift for you, Damien. The protagonist laughs. All right, but you're going to regret it. This guy is bold. The scene switches to Governor Sebastian Baker saying, thanks to Cedric, I'm enjoying everything quite well. Robert, a drunk knight, says, pour me another. Then the man on the left, wearing a beret, says, seeing you too happy is an honor for me. Whatever you need, just tell me. Sebastian replies, that's good, Cedric. If you want to take over the other syndicate's locations, go ahead. The Black Snake group can have everything. The fat man asks if he's sure, and the governor says yes. even the lovely red light district. The big guy wants to know, but everyone will sue. The governor says it's fine. It's easy to suppress with the authority he has. The knight Robert apologizes, saying, Cedric, it's a shame. There's not much I can do for you. Cedric laughs. Just you protecting the city is more than enough, Sir Robert. It's not easy keeping a place this big safe. You're a modest guy, but there's no need to put yourself down that much. Robert just keeps laughing with someone hyping him up. While Cedric crouches down, the governor says that if he needs anything, just say the word. The fat man laughs. Soon, I won't have to lower my head to this trash. It won't take long before the black snake takes over this entire city. They'll be the ones kneeling before me. Then someone suddenly opens the door and calls for the boss. Cedric says, I have guests. What is it? The man replies, sorry, but I need to warn you about something. Cedric steps outside to listen, and the others inside hear him shouting, what? Damien Haxon is here. He's shocked. What happened to that black mage? Good thing you warned his subordinates ahead of time. Then he says, all right, I get it, and heads off. The man asks, hold on, is it fine to leave him like that? Cedric answers, what's he going to do? He came here to die, so let him. But outside, there are potions scattered across the ground, frightened men, and Cedric shoving another one. He activates the power, charges forward, and tears off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 heads. Men are literally being split in half. The scene shifts to the middle of the city with hooded men advancing, saying someone owes him a favor, so not to worry. Cedric is terrified up on the tower. Hold on. I had to check because I had a bad feeling. But how did this happen? Damien is down below, everyone defeated and on the ground. The protagonist holds his sword. Cedric can't believe he did this alone. Then he asks, wait, is that really Damien Haxon? The man answers, yes, sir. He arrived and introduced himself like that. Cedric is shaken. I didn't think the rumors about that useless Viscount were true. Did the black mage I sent after them get taken out too? This is bad, he needs backup. Suddenly, someone points a staff at him. When Damien looks up at the roof, the man says, you monster, let's see you block this. The magic starts charging, but what comes out looks more like a spark than a bomb. The others say he's an idiot for thinking he can stop a fire spell with the sword. But Damien uses the secret technique, spinning his blade around the fire, taking control of it, and sending it back at the mage. The rooftop explodes. Those poor guys are roasted and dead. The kid is absolutely wiping out the city now. Then he says, well, now it's time to confirm who the real boss of this. But suddenly, something is about to hit him and he dodges at the last second. Looking to the side, he notices the man's power is so intense it made his skin prickle. The person says, I was wondering who the bastard causing trouble in the city was. Looks like it's just an overly confident kid. Damien knows this man is an official knight, and the worst part is that suddenly several knights surround him. He's confused. Soldiers and knights who are supposed to keep order here are threatening him instead. Then someone shouts, how dare you cause trouble in my city? It's Sebastian who says, I, the governor of these lands, declare that you must be punished. The protagonist looks to the side and thinks, quite the visitor. Then he says, and who's going to punish me? You, and why? The man, however, is shouting in desperation, saying that a worthless kid like him is really full of himself. He doesn't even realize the magnitude of what he's done. Not only did he try to kill Cedric, a supposedly gentle businessman, but he also attacked his company and killed innocent people. Meanwhile, the townsfolk are whispering on the side. What is he talking about? That guy is the biggest criminal around, calling him a businessman. Cedric, however, is thinking, whatever. No matter how strong they are or what the public thinks, no one can lay a hand on someone under the governor's protection. The protagonist says to Cedric, come here, while thinking, finally I can punch this idiot in the face. He knew those disgusting black snake guys had some connection with the city's administration, but this was loyalty at the level of worship. Just mentioning governor makes him laugh, calling that piece of trash a gentle businessman. The governor, however, points at Cedric and says, shut up, you're going to apologize. Kneel now and apologize to Cedric, and I'll reduce your sentence. But the protagonist says he has nothing to apologize for since he committed no crime. Then Sebastian says, there's no way I can be tolerant, kid. You're young, but you left me no choice. Sir Robert, take care of this. The knight steps forward, introduces himself as a city soldier, and tells him it's better to drop the weapon and surrender. The protagonist replies, funny, even a soldier who should defend the city is getting involved in this. Robert then says, you're a strange one, kid. You're saying all that, but I don't see even a trace of fear in your eyes. Either you're brave or you're completely stupid. But Damien only responds, I'm confident. The man laughs while activating his power, saying the kid really is an idiot, and launches the first empowered strike, but Damien dodges backward. He's talking big because he has no other choice, but the truth is that fighting a knight at this level won't be easy. He just needs to hold on until those people arrive, but a punch is already coming. He blocks it, but gets thrown far back. He even pulls off a Simone Biles-style flip and manages to land on his feet. His arm is hurt though. He looks back, wondering why they still haven't arrived. Robert approaches, wanting to know what he's searching for, and swings the axe down toward his head. What? Did the protagonist block the axe with his arm? No. Another person arrived wearing armor, knocking Robert's axe away. Instantly, the knights are startled, and so are the governor and Cedric. Robert demands to know who this newcomer is and orders them to identify themselves. The person lowers their hood and, my goodness, the woman with the impressive thighs has arrived. Welcome to the story. Please tell us your name. The men are shocked. That appearance is unmistakable. She's extremely a paladin. That's exactly what she is. The protagonist is thrilled, asking, "Why did you take so long?" Victor comes running in. "Young master, I'm here. I brought the gang." Cedric is horrified. "Damn it. Why is there a paladin here? That means the church got involved. Do they know I did something to that black mage?" The protagonist grabs Victor's face and says, "I'm not okay. I waited too long for you. At least you brought the one I was waiting for." The paladin hears this while Victor smiles proudly. "Young master, I follow your orders better than anyone." Then we cut to a few hours earlier when everyone was praying in the church. And wow, she's dressed like a fully covered nun. But when she goes out to fight, it's mini armor time. That's when Victor walked in asking if this was the sacred church. She approached and said yes, asking what the problem was. He then said, "My lord asked me to deliver this to you as quickly as possible. Something about evidence that someone was working with the black mage." She was surprised and asked to see it. The moment she looked, she noticed the energy was weak, but it was definitely black magic. And that symbol made it obvious. She grabbed the sack and pulled out the decapitated creature's head. She said she had finally found one of Elhan's leaders. In that moment, she ripped off the nun outfit, and underneath she was fully prepared for combat. The scene shifted back to the city, her entire body glowing red as she asked, "Are you Damien Haxon?" He said yes, while Victor found it strange she was acting differently. She told him, "The church received the evidence. We will handle this for you." He thanked her and told her to do whatever she wanted. He never wanted to get involved with the sacred church's path anyway. She thanked him back, and he thought, "Paladins of the church, things are going exactly how I expected. They spend their entire lives serving God, always doing good deeds and community work. But when it comes time to deal with heretics and demons, they never hesitate to unleash the flame of the soul." Many call them fanatics, and the vanguard of this church are these warriors, the paladins, and now such paladins are on my side. Then the white-haired, thick-thighed woman said, "Citizens, hear this. The church has received information that someone made a contract with the Black Mage and was active in these lands." Everyone was confused. A contract with the Black Mage? Who would do something like that with those filthy scoundrels? The paladin then declared that she would eliminate everyone involved, and from now on, the church would take control of the city. At that moment, the governor said none of this made sense. She got no authorization from the main government to try to manage this territory. The paladin responded, "Sebastian, you are sheltering heretics and going against the will of God. The church's authority stands above even that of the kingdom in cases like this. Besides, you and your knight are the main suspects." Sebastian didn't understand. He insisted they never did anything with black mages. But she pointed at Cedric and said, "This man has been hiding behind you and supporting the black mages. Supporting or protecting someone like him is more than suspicious enough." The clueless governor asked, "Cedric, are you working with the mages?" Cedric replied, "No, never. I never do something so stupid." But the paladin did exactly what the protagonist wanted. She pulled out the book and said it contained all the records of Cedric's negotiations with those who bought items from the black mage. Every single item could be confirmed once they checked the rest of the shops and his belongings. Cedric trembled with rage, wondering why the idiot mage wrote everything down. He said, "Everyone, stay back. This is a misunderstanding. I'll never do anything with the black mage." But the paladin said, "Take this fool." The men dragged him away, and Sebastian looked to the side, seeing Damien laughing at the man. That bastard, he planned this from the start. But Cedric couldn't just let himself be taken. He didn't know what these fanatics would do to him. Cedric yelled, "Sir Robert, are you really going to surrender like this? These people are insane for trying to arrest you." He kept calling out, "Sir Robert, Sir Robert." But the knight just stared at the axe in front of him. Then he said, "You know what? Enough." He threw it aside, saying that at least this was better than a guaranteed death. He runs, grabs the axe, and says he's going to kill her while the rest escape. He has absolutely no chance. She's overwhelmingly strong in every way. Cedric is smiling while the protagonist is thinking the poor guy made a huge mistake. The axe hits the ground as she sidesteps and closes in, calling him foolish. She shoots forward like a bullet, slamming into his chest while Cedric watches in fear. Her hand pierces through him, and she says those who disobey deserve God's fury. She tears her fist out of his chest. The man drops dead instantly, and she announces he has been punished according to the Lord's will. "If I were his age, I'd be at church every day." With that, Cedric is restrained. Sebastian is being dragged away while the protagonist and Victor laughed, saying, "This is the great leader of the Black Snake. Looks like he's weaker than the rumors." Cedric can't believe a kid put him in this state. The protagonist looks at the blessed warrior, saying that thanks to her, everything worked out. But she was much stronger than he expected. From the amount of holy power she had, she was probably a disciple of the Azure Flame. Bregondyne was one of the 5 strongest in the church, the one who wielded fire, famous for killing countless heretics. Then someone called Damien's name. It was the blessed warrior saying, "It's hard to express how much I want to thank you." The protagonist says he only did what was necessary, and she replies, "Well, because of what you contributed, we won't charge you anything." He's confused, asking what she means. She responds, "Didn't you use the church to cover the attack you launched on the Black Snake?" The protagonist immediately realizes his entire plan was exposed. He apologizes if that offends her. It's just that this black mage not only cursed their territory, but also tried to hurt his family. She tells him that given the circumstances, she'll overlook it, and the bounty for hunting Saw Mangwi will be delivered soon. You didn't expect her to reveal that it's 1,000 gold. What? According to Victor's reaction, that's enough to buy a small castle. But Davian says he's interested in something else instead of the reward. She's confused and asks what he wants. He reveals he wants one of the church's mana cultivation techniques. She's puzzled, asking, "You're strong enough to wipe out the entire black snake on your own. Why do you want a mana cultivation technique?" But the protagonist had already realized the truth. He survived thanks to the power of authority, but to defeat stronger people in the future and reach higher levels, he needs another technique to train his mana. Otherwise, he'll always be dependent on black mana, which is dangerous. And what he plans to practice in this life needs to be far more advanced than what he trained in the past. He explains that he already mastered the basic techniques and wants something harder and more advanced. She's shocked he mastered the basic ones. She could really feel a considerable amount of mana from this boy. If what he was saying was true, his talent was extraordinary. And now she's thinking he also has the resolve to eliminate heretics without hesitation. She laughs and says that if that's the case, she has an even better offer. Would he be interested? Damien asks what it is. Then she gives the obvious answer. She offers him the chance to become a paladin. Of course, the church girl would try to recruit him, but he simply says no. She falls to the ground, demanding to know why. "You idiot, becoming a paladin is the greatest honor given by God. You'd have the chance to punish evil in his name. You have no idea how hard it is to earn that position." The protagonist stands there with his arms crossed, staring into nothing, thinking that not only has he never been a very religious person, he also has no desire to live as a dog of the church. But he can't say that to her, so he turns and says, "I'm simply not worthy of receiving God's love. From today on, I want to travel the world and spread the divine word, but only as a humble, devoted follower." Victor mutters from the side that this lie definitely won't work. The paladin lowers her head, saying those are sacred words. Her ears practically perked up as if she just received a new commandment. He's a bit confused. She says he doesn't need to worry. She'll try to provide a cultivation technique instead of the reward. But if one day he changes his mind, he can come to the church anytime, and she will personally take care of him. He thinks that will never happen, but tells her it's fine. She introduces herself as Aans and says she is the first disciple of the Azure Flame. He's impressed that she's the #1 disciple and says it's an honor to meet her. He then says he has something to take care of, and she says all right, but asks what he's planning to do. The protagonist approaches Cedric, who is calling him trash. He responds with a kick to Cedric's stomach, making him vomit everything he ate yesterday. Damien even says, "Kicking your belly feels pretty nice." Guess the fat cushions the impact. Cedric tries to stand and insult him again, but takes another strike right in the face. Aans and Victor are just watching while the protagonist, face red, admits he's feeling extremely satisfied. A while later, Victor asks if everything is really over. Damien says yes, probably, meaning it is absolutely not over. The scene then cuts to the Lionbloom family's estate. Holland enters the room calling for Yoan. He sees someone trembling under the blankets. The boy is afraid, and his father approaches asking what happened. Yoan says, "That bastard father tried to kill me. He grabbed a knife, no, a sword, and threatened me." Holland thinks, "These fools really think they can scare my son like this?" He orders everyone to explain what happened, and one of the soldiers steps forward to report. He basically says the fault lies with Damien of House Haxon. The whole room shakes, porcelain crashes to the floor, and the man demands to know how they allowed that filthy brat to lay a hand on his son. He then declares they're sending people to Haxon immediately to drag that kid back like a dog. Meanwhile, back in the protagonist's territory, the short-skirted church believer is introducing herself as Aans, the church's chosen disciple. His parents are hesitant but welcome her. And now the father already wants to kill poor Damien, thinking, "This brat not only caused trouble but also brought these fanatics into my home." Damien's father says, "Damien informed me that you'll be staying here for a while." She says yes, that decision was made as part of the heretic investigation. The father apologizes, saying the house is small and may not fit many people, until she shows the bag of money, thanking them for their generosity. He immediately declares that they now live there. Aans walks toward the protagonist, thanking him for allowing them to continue their investigation. He thinks that when she said she had another request, he never imagined she meant coming to his house. She then says, "Sir Damien, the investigation is important, but there's something else I want to know." He asks what it is. She's blushing, calling out to him, speaking in that holy, church-home way while his parents watch. His father even gives him a thumbs up like, "Go on, son, get the saint." "What is that, Dad?" Don't joke about something this tempting. She hands him the cultivation manual he requested, explaining these were specially selected volumes. He's confused, asking why she's giving him two. She explains that one is a sword technique and the other is a cultivation technique. Damien thinks he doesn't really need any new swordsmanship skills, but there's no reason to refuse. Now, this manual on destructive energy is something he had never seen in his previous life. Aang starts being dramatic. It was so hard to obtain these manuals. He thanks her, but she insists, saying he has no idea how difficult it was, how complicated it is to earn such things from the church. He thanks her again, and she keeps talking. The speech bubbles practically hit him in the face. After insisting for a while, she steps closer again and says she has to ask, "Why don't you consider becoming a paladin?" He pulls his hand back and apologizes. She turns away and says it's all right. If she insists more, it'll start to look inappropriate. But if he ever changes his mind, he can come talk to her. She leaves with clenched fists. The protagonist notices. No wonder she's a fanatic. Her obsession goes far beyond normal devotion. The scene switches back to the cave where he killed Salmangwe. The paladins are checking everything. The file remains and one says it's very suspicious. Another asks why. He explains, "What sense does this make? Manga was a high-ranked member we've been tracking for ages. Sure, members of the Curse School are weaker in direct combat, but how was he defeated by the son of a rural noble in a place like this?" The other man replies that he shares doubts, but Agnes didn't question it, so he won't either. His friend insists that maybe it's something to be concerned about. He says, "Let's focus on the investigation. We'll talk about that later." Agnes suddenly appears and says, "You can trust Damien." The men freeze awkwardly. She continues, "I understand your doubts, but I'm certain he didn't lie." The men ask how Damien killed Manga. She says she heard about it. They're confused. Heard? What does she mean? She remembers the moment when the protagonist explained how he dodged the attack and cut off Manga's head. The man is bewildered. "Wait, you think the story about dodging an attack and chopping off his head is true?" She nods and says, "When the servant brought the head that day, I obviously doubted his ability. That's why I observed him from a distance for a while before intervening. Alone, he fought dozens of soldiers without receiving a single scratch and wiped them out like they were nothing. The most shocking part was when he redirected that fireball spell." The men ask, "Is that even possible?" She says, "Well, in theory it is. She's heard that people who reach the level of sword master can do something like that." The men protest, "That makes no sense. We're talking about Damien Haxon." She answers, "I know he isn't a sword master, but this clearly proves he did something only great knights can achieve. And the reason she's here isn't just because she's concerned about Manga. She actually needs to meet Damien and make him meet her master, because he would be a huge addition to the church. That's why, for now, they should put aside their doubts and focus on the investigation." He just won't give up, huh? Wow, what a possessive girl. There are some guys who actually like the crazy ones. But right then, the Lion Bloom territory soldiers arrive. One of them stretches and says they finally made it. It's one of the apprentice knights, Opus. The other one complains the place stinks. It's Lavender. The blonde man in front tells them both to shut up. He's an official knight of the Lion Bloom family named Garrick. He wants to confirm if this is Haxon territory. Lavender confirms, and Garrick asks what mission the Marquis gave them. The man explains, "Looks like we're here to retrieve someone called Damien Haxon." Garrick answers that capturing trash like that will be way too easy. But of course, just that won't be enough to pay for the humiliation. An old man with a cane walks past them. Garrick calls out, "Old man." The guy turns, "Who are you?" Garrick asks, "Are you a resident of the Haxon territory?" The old man says yes. What, you cut the old man's head off? Just like that? Completely out of nowhere? And he even says, "How dare garbage from a place like this not bow when seeing us?" The knights behind him are confused, whispering, "Wait, I think that old man was blind." But Garrick just tells the two to listen. He has a good idea. When they reach the Haxon territory, they're going to drag that brat out and kill anyone who gets in their way. Wow, they're about to run into Victor. There's no way they're killing the chubby guy. We return to the cave with the paladins. They say the whole place collapsed, so they found less than they hoped. But Aang says it's fine and praises the work. Then they look around and notice Damien training, gathering energy as he breathes. They whisper that they don't know what he's doing, but it looks amazing. Aang, however, is shocked. The destructive energy technique she gave Damien should only let someone absorb mana from the surroundings after mastering it completely. So how is he already doing that after only a few hours? When he relaxes and opens his eyes, he sees the men staring at him, glowing in awe. He asks if they finished the investigation, and she says yes. Her face is red as she asks, "Damien, did you make progress?" He says only a little while thinking. No wonder she said this technique was hard to obtain. Sword techniques don't help him much. He was a sword master in his past life. But this cultivation technique is incredibly useful. It was created specifically to compensate for the huge mana consumption of the destructive sword arts. And thanks to that, it absorbs surrounding mana much faster than any other method. He just doesn't understand why she's standing there staring at him non-stop. He then says, "It's time for dinner," wondering who drew this romantic scenery. But he stops for a moment. There's a strange bloodlust in the air. He immediately mutters that some pests have arrived. He tells Agnes he has urgent business and will go ahead. They can return at their own pace. Then the kids sprint away like Usain Bolt. The men are impressed, and Agnes is getting even redder. "Girl, I won't even comment." She wants to know what this boy's limit is. Back at the protagonist's house, Victor is saying goodbye and heading to lunch. The poor guy drops to his knees as Lavender hits him, calling him worthless trash and asking if he's trying to challenge him. He already told Victor to bring the damn Damien Haxon out. But Victor says no. He knows they want to hurt Damien. He sees this happening, and the protagonist's father comes running. He immediately orders everyone to stop. The men ask if he's the Viscount, and he grabs Victor, asking if he's okay. He demands to know what this means, why knights are beating civilians like this. But Garrick says, compared to what your household did to Lion Bloom, this is nothing. Viscount Paul, you should know the Marquis is demanding that Damien come before him right now. Hand him over quietly, or your lands will suffer. Just as Paul expected, the Marquis wouldn't stay quiet after what happened. But he also knows this is a complete lie. If he hands over his son, the territory will be burned to the ground anyway. So he yells that he will never hand over his child. Garrick asks, "Are you sure? You'll regret it." When Paul stands firm, Garrick says fine, they've left him no choice. He orders the two knights to destroy everything until Damien shows himself. Paul asks if they've gone insane, when suddenly someone asks if these worms have lost their minds. It's Damien arriving, releasing pressure. Garrick is startled, wondering when this kid appeared. The protagonist walks forward without answering anyone. Lavender instantly feels something unnatural. It's like he can't even move. Damien asks if his father is all right. He says yes, but Victor isn't completely fine. Damien says they're incredibly lucky. If Victor hadn't been born with such a durable body, and yes, he would have died in this fight, and then the 3 knights would have needed to die as well. Garrick says, so you're Damien. Looks like you didn't challenge the Marquis out of courage, you were just completely insane. Or are you feeling confident because you beat a noble using tricks? Damien is confused about this trick nonsense. Garrick then orders the 2 soldiers to attack and bring the brat to his knees. And here comes our boy thinking, you know what? Forget it. This is the perfect chance. He grabs one knight's arm mid-strike, stopping it completely. He was itching to test the mana he gathered earlier, so this is perfect to see the destructive energy technique's potential. He hits Lavender square in the chest, sending him flying. Ulpis is shocked, staring at his friend who just got launched, but then a kick slams into his chin. They both hit the ground in a single exchange. Victor wakes up, calling for the young master. Damien asks if he's okay, and the chubby guy raises his hand with a thumbs up. Adorable. Damien thinks the kid is interesting. Truly, Victor is the real tank. Those McDonald's calories weren't for nothing. Garrick gets off his horse and approaches. Looks like you didn't beat Cedric with tricks, but I still don't understand how trash like you has skills like this. The protagonist answers that he doesn't need to understand. Garrick then says it makes sense now. He's figured it out. This kid isn't Damien Haxon. Paul is confused and the protagonist asks what he's talking about. Garrick shouts, don't lie to me, as if this isn't an ambush created by those dogs who hate the Lion Bloom family. You're not the real Damien. I know it. You're an imposter. Hired by the Lord to destroy our house. But it's fine. I won't let garbage like you threaten the Lion Blooms. The protagonist thinks this man is even more stupid than he imagined. Meanwhile, Garrick is gathering all of his strength. He meanwhile is lying on the ground pretending to be unconscious. It's the safest option for now. The father is a bit worried about what Damien is going to do while Victor begs him to win. Garrick has been ready to draw his sword for what feels like 36 panels, thinking, this kid may look skilled, but today his luck ends. Half a step, once he's within my reach, he'll die in the blink of an eye. He finally draws his sword, saying he's about to split Damien in half, but the protagonist blocks the blade like it's nothing and even laughs, saying that as expected from the Lion Bloom family, at least this time they sent a decent knight. Garrick stumbles back. He looked like he was charging forward, but now he's retreating, wondering how the kid blocked his attack. He then convinces himself it was just luck. So he tells Damien to try blocking the next sequence, but Damien is right there, effortlessly blocking everything. Garrick can't believe it, and in the next instant, the protagonist vanishes and says it's his turn. A slash across the face. Garrick panics. I can't even see his attacks. He expects a sword strike, but instead comes a kick that sends him spinning like a Beyblade. Humiliated, he crashes to the ground. Damien says that one was for Victor. Garrick gets up and charges again, calling him a brat. Damien watches him activate the ultimate Lion Bloom technique. Strength, speed, whatever else. Damien admits the move looks flashy, but that's all it is. He clashes his blade against Garrick's, and Garrick's sword breaks right in the middle of the fight. Damien's sword is way tougher. Garrick is horrified. No, his sword cut through mine. And it didn't stop there, it slices through his arm like butter. The fool screams and collapses like trash. In the back, Victor and the father are completely stunned. Damien looks back calmly while Garrick mutters, this hurts. Damien places the blade against his neck and Garrick immediately apologizes. I don't know who you are, but you win, please forgive us. The protagonist says, I'm Damien Haxon, you idiot. And if you wanted to beg for your life, you should have done it earlier. Too late now. You messed with my family and even made my servant, who's already ugly, look even worse. Completely unnecessary insult. Garrick begs, saying it was all a misunderstanding. But Damien replies, you still don't know who you should apologize to, do you? Victor and Paul step forward, Victor holding a wooden stick. It's time for the whole family to join the beating, and all 3 knights get destroyed. Victor says, young master, I'm still not satisfied. I think I need to hit them a bit more. Damien says, sure, only stop once they die. And maybe to make this more fun, they should rip off another one of Garrick's arms. But Paul interrupts, saying that's enough. Garrick apologizes to Lord Haxon, saying he was wrong. He disrespected their land. But Paul says no, an apology won't pay the price. If his son hadn't been that strong, the entire territory would have been destroyed. Damien would have been dragged to the Marquis estate, who knows what would happen. Garrick bows, smashing his head against the ground. My lord, please forgive me. I was innocent. But Paul just looks at him, then looks at Damien smiling. And now Damien is thinking, it's not like I actually want to kill these men. But if I cut his neck now, our relationship with the Lion Bloom family will be ruined. Sure, I could defeat their whole house on my own, but I can't drag my entire family into this. On the other hand, if I let these men walk away now, they'll definitely try to retaliate later. So, what am I supposed to do? She calls out, Lord Damien. It's her again, our holy thick-thighed saint, wanting to know what happened. When he sees this gorgeous woman walking over, he gets an idea. She would be useful. The scene shifts to her thinking. I see. So that's what happened? If that's the case, I might be able to help you. He asks how, and she explains, thanks to House Haxon, we managed to kill one of those black mages. Because of that, we can designate your family as an ally of the church. The protagonist thinks that's a great idea. His father realizes this would be a peaceful way to escape the crisis. Davian's eyes light up as he says, "If it's not too much to ask, could you really do that for us?" But inside, that was exactly what he wanted, church protection. She says it's fine, won't be anything complicated. So the protagonist asks if Garrick heard her. It's important to deliver this message to Lionbloom. House Haxon is now under the church's protection. If they try forcing anything again, they'll face the wrath of the paladins. The three idiots run away immediately, while Victor sighs in relief. Well, now that those bastards are gone, we can finally rest. But the father says it won't be that easy. They now have new problems. In another room, he starts a meeting. All right, you all know the topic. How are we going to deal with House Lionbloom? The older brother says, "Father, didn't we get the church's protection? Why would we need more help?" But the sister explains, "Abel, just because we have church protection doesn't mean they'll intervene in everything." Paul agrees. Louise is right. The church will only step in for situations with large-scale consequences. But Lionbloom isn't just powerful militarily. A noble house that's strong could crush them in countless ways. The easiest solution would be paying for the protection of an even stronger noble. But then the saint steps in and says there is another option. Lord Damien Haxon could become a paladin. The protagonist never expected her to say that in the middle of the meeting. He quickly tells his family he has no intention of doing that. The father immediately says that if his son doesn't want it, then it's not an option. But suddenly, Abel slams the table, calling for his father. Everyone jumps. He says, "Why are you accepting this so easily? If he becomes a paladin, everything gets solved instantly. Tell him to become one." The protagonist thinks this idiot is begging to get punched. Abel keeps pounding the table, telling his father to think properly. All of this is Damien's fault. But Paul calls his name. Abel freezes under the father's dragon stare. The father orders him to shut up since they have a guest. Ains hides behind her seat and Abel sits back down like a scared child. Paul continues, "Yes, Abel is right. Damien did cause this conflict with Lionbloom, but it isn't only his fault. What started everything was the second Lionbloom's son's desire for Louise. If Damien hadn't acted, that man would never have stopped. And Damien protected her from the Lionblooms, unlike me. I was the one who hesitated." He gets up, calls Damien over, and proudly says he did a great job. He didn't just refuse those men's insults toward their family, he also made them pay the price. The protagonist feels moved. He says he feels something unexpected. Then he answers that it was something he had to do. But Paul says it's fine, from now on he will handle things. For the first time, he's going to act like a real father. Suddenly, everyone stops. A man enters, announcing they've received a visit from House Gold Pixie. Paul wants to know what on earth they're doing here. The butler explains it seems that some time ago, Damien borrowed money using wheat as collateral, and it looks like the payment date has already passed. The protagonist looks at his father and gets flicked on the neck. Humiliated. Cut to a man removing his hat. "Lord Damien, what a wonderful day to see you. Who's this long-eared clown?" "His name is Olin Dimishi, idiot." He says, "Wouldn't it have been better if you used your family land as collateral? That way we could lend you even more money." And Damien remembers. This is the man who made him sign mountains of paperwork to rob his family of everything. And since the former Damien only wanted money and was stupid, he kept getting tricked by this guy. So Damien asks, "How much do I owe?" Olin answers, "Well, you borrowed 200 gold. With interest, that becomes 300. Apparently that's a lot because Damien is visibly shocked. The worst part is that it happened so long ago he doesn't even remember if he really borrowed 200 or when it happened. But the problem is obvious. The family does not have that money. At this rate, they'll all end up homeless, begging on the streets, humiliated by everyone. Then Olin says, "Well, as you know, if you don't pay, part of your land becomes mine." After all, it was the agreement. The protagonist says that collateral was supposed to be just a formality, and Olin replies, "Yes, it is just a formality, but what can we do? I'm here to collect the debt, since you didn't pay it. So if we're clear, you can go and bring the money now. Or, do you not have it?" Damien, with no choice, answers honestly, "I can't pay." Olin looks surprised, then smiles. "I see. Understood." He sits down, saying the boy shouldn't have borrowed money if he couldn't pay it back. He snaps his fingers and says it's fine, he'll just have to collect in another way. Inside his head, Olin thinks, "I knew from the start he wouldn't be able to pay. I enjoy money, but what I love even more is this moment, when arrogant nobles lower their heads and lick my boots. I wonder what Damien's face will look like when he has to kneel." The man is sweating and breathing heavily. "What is this?" Get this creep away immediately. He says just imagining Damien on his knees gives him chills. Good lord. Cut to the father, clearly panicking along with the entire family, unsure how to resolve this problem. Marilla tells him to sit down before he stamps a hole into the floor. But he's desperate, saying he can't stay still at a time like this. They owe so much money, it could ruin a family. Abel agrees, this is the end. But the mother says it's fine. Damien said he will handle it, so they should trust him. Louise adds that the boy has never failed after saying he would do something. Paul says that's only because Damien's swordsmanship is exceptional. Fighting and negotiating are completely different skills. Then he sees Damien literally slamming negotiation onto the floor, blowing up the room. Looking at the destroyed floor, Damien thinks father is going to yell at me. Another soldier jumps in to do a vertical slash, but Damien catches him by the neck with one arm. You drew your sword against a noble. This counts as self-defense. Olin is trembling in fear while the protagonist walks toward him and stops right in front of him. The man immediately kneels and Damien tells him to relax his legs. What kind of conversation is this? Then the protagonist says, listen, I can't pay that money right now. Olin says, no, it's fine. Don't worry. But the protagonist just places a hand on his shoulder and says that if he wants, he can be paid in another way. He's threatening him, but the way he phrased it was unusual. But apparently it worked because suddenly it's the next day. Abel steps out of the house saying his heart is broken. The father asks what happened and Abel explains that justice and honesty were destroyed by raw violence. He can't accept that once again Damien ignored the law and solved everything with brute strength. The father thinks back, he agreed with Damien's plan, but he's still worried if it will actually work. Top 10 tragic news moments, friends. Agnes arrives to announce they're leaving. The protagonist thanks her for everything, and she replies she only did what was necessary. Her face is red as she fixes her hair, saying the investigation is over, so they'll return tomorrow. She hopes the boy's journey will be blessed. He returns a prayer and thanks her. She's about to ask if he changed his mind, but he says no, so she enters the carriage. Victor, let's depart. The luggage is loaded, they're headed somewhere, and even they're impressed by how spacious the carriage is. And look at that, they're traveling with Olin. He greets them, saying, this journey will be amazing. I hope nothing bad happens to you. The protagonist thanks him, saying his enthusiasm is great, so much energy he'll probably get himself a lobster for dinner today. Damien calls for Victor and tells him to give the signal. The horses pull, the carriage moves, and the protagonist heads toward the house of Gold Pixie. Next scene, Damien looks upward at a massive mansion and Victor is impressed, saying the estate truly fits the richest family in the entire kingdom. And yes, they really have a black mansion, my god. Olin says, I've already spoken with the Duke, Damien. You could go in without worry, all the while thinking, this brat made me work harder than a servant. His plan will definitely fail. But he tells Damien, your plan will work perfectly. The protagonist confidently replies that he'll be back soon. Cut to someone asking, so you're Damien Haxon? This man is Adam Gold Pixie, who says the boy is the infamous troublemaker of House Haxon. The protagonist replies he's honored to be recognized. Adam asks, why are you looking for me? Damien answers, well, I borrowed money from your family business and unfortunately the due date has arrived. Adam says he understands and Damien continues, well, I don't have the money right now, so I wanted to repay it in another way. Adam wants to know how. The protagonist says, I'll defeat the Lion Blooms in exchange for my debt. Everyone is surprised. Adam says the boy must know the rumors and the old man next to him named Gale agrees. The protagonist knows that everyone in the Apple Kingdom knows this rumor. Right on the border between Lion Bloom and Gold Pixie lands, a gold mine was discovered. The two families never had a good relationship and even planned a duel between low-class knights to determine monopolization of the mine. But Damien already knows the outcome. The Lion Blooms would win in overwhelming fashion. With that new gold, they would quickly expand their power, while the Gold Pixies would lose a huge portion of their influence. Helping the Gold Pixies win would let Damien repay his debt and also put Lion Bloom in check once again. Adam says, you really are ambitious. It seems to be true that you defeated the second Lion Bloom's son and even took down an organization. The protagonist proudly says yes. None of it is just rumor. Adam seems interested, saying he really has been looking for a knight to participate in this duel. Damien answers that he's the perfect candidate. Who else in his place could fight the Lion Bloom family's eldest son? But the noble looks uncertain, wanting to know if Damien could really defeat that man. Everyone knows the eldest Lion Bloom's son is considered a genius. The protagonist agrees, yes, he's skilled. But someone interrupts him. A wild orange-haired guy beside them says all the rumors about this kid are exaggerated. His name is Howitz and he claims Miss Chelsea will bring the perfect candidate. She left a month ago searching for the best knight to face Michael, so when she returns, she'll definitely have someone better than Damien. She passed all the tests flawlessly, so whoever she brings is guaranteed to be perfect. Adam says he did bring up some valid points. Meanwhile, the protagonist is thinking this ugly man is ruining his plan. So Adam asks, what about it, Damien? Is this what my people think? What do you think we should do? The protagonist realizes the man is testing him. So he answers, looks like you're all completely wrong. The only chance you have of winning is if I fight for you. No matter who Miss Chelsea brings, they won't be as good as me. Howitz snaps, kid, how do you have the nerve to say something like that when you don't even know who's coming? The protagonist replies, if you want proof, how about I block your strongest attack? Howitz looks startled. Davian continues, if I block your strongest attack, that'll definitely prove my worth. Howitz can't believe a low-class kid is challenging him like this. He asks Adam for permission to teach the boy a lesson, and Adam, with nothing to lose, allows it. Now we're in the arena. The protagonist stretches while Victor asks what happened. They came here to convince the Duke not to fight one of the soldiers. Damien just says, yeah, that happened. What can you do? Victor looks at Howitz's power and realizes Damien really might be in danger this time. Gull gives the order for Howitz to begin. Howitz slams his spear into the ground and says he'll put the boy on his knees and make him beg. Damien tells him to hurry. He's taking too long. Howitz activates his power through the spear, expanding his energy, saying if Damien wants the strongest attack, then he'll give him exactly that. Damien is impressed. The guy got angrier than he expected. And now Howitz thrusts forward, shouting that he'll put a hole right through Damien's skull. He charges through the air at full speed, stretching his body forward. The protagonist is impressed. No wonder this man is already a mid-class knight. The good thing is that as long as he knows where the attack is aimed, he can defend easily. But Howitz is crafty. He says he'll stab Damien's face, but the attack is actually aimed at his chest. Damien notices it and swings his blade down to block, but the sword shatters. Howitz grins, thinking the fool fell right into his trick. He actually pierces Damien's chest. Victor panics, and even Adam looks confused and surprised. But Damien steps back with his foot and stays standing. Howitz cannot believe it. How did this kid endure a surprise attack like that? Then someone calls, "Your Highness." It's the protagonist. He says that, judging by the result, the representative position is his. It's over. The big guy gave him a hug and almost crushed him to death, but at least he was still standing. Adam walks over to congratulate him, saying it's incredible that he really endured an attack from Howitz. He admits he had doubts, but the boy is clearly capable. Then he announces to all his vassals that Damien has proven his skill. He will be the representative. Howitz tries to say something, but Adam immediately tells him to shut up, saying he's already in a win with the result, so he better keep quiet. Looking at Damien's torn chest, Howitz wonders how that's even possible. He could feel his strike landing perfectly. The protagonist thinks the poor guy is about to be humiliated by the Duke. It's not that Howitz is weak, he just fought the wrong opponent, because right now, Damien is far beyond the mid-class level. The truth is that only lower-ranked knights can join that duel, but he can't reveal all his power, so he let himself get hit and pretended to be a little weaker. In the final moment, when the spear reached his chest, he activated his mana to block it. Adam looks at Damien and says he clearly has internal injuries and can't stay standing too long. He taps his ring so everyone can see the spatial storage open and tells Damien this is a gift. Balance pills, extremely expensive to obtain from the Alchemy Institute. The protagonist likes this very much. These are supplies that increase his physical ability. Adam tells him to take them. They're great for training and also for recovering injuries. He says he's looking forward to working with the boy. Damien simply thanks him. Next day, Damien is stretching and notices the medicine worked incredibly well. Overnight, the wounds disappeared, and the training tools in this place are excellent. He's excited to start training until someone asks if he's Damien Haxon. The artist suddenly drew Damien towering over the guy like a giant, uncalled for. The protagonist asks who he is, and the man introduces himself as Pebble, saying these are his brothers. They're knights who will also participate in the duel. Damien looks a bit confused, and Pebble tells him to get ready. Yesterday, they were training outside, so they didn't see the fight, and Damien got lucky. If they had been there instead of Howitz, he would have learned a painful lesson. He says Damien will understand today that the duel with Lionbloom is extremely important and they can't let trash like him represent them. So he should leave and stop interrupting their training. The protagonist walks away thinking that actually this is great. He was curious about the skill level of the knights in this place. Suddenly, Pebble announces it's time to train. He stands there in perfect form while another knight leaps into the Rising Phoenix technique. They're fighting intensely, but Damien suspects these techniques are practically useless. One guy keeps bragging that he won't go easy. He attacks while the opponent ducks, then the opponent rises quickly and punches Pebble right in the face. But that kid is insane too. He blocks the strike with his forehead and is bleeding. While the crazy one proudly says he learned the forehead defense technique today, Pebble compliments him, saying he's improved. Then a chubby knight says he's excited for today's match, and the trio confidently say that at this rate, in 1 month, they'll achieve incredible results. One for all and all for one. Clearly, this trio is insane. Victor arrives. Master, what's going on? The protagonist thinks, we're in trouble, Victor. Here's the situation. We're absolutely doomed in this duel. There's no way we can win with these 3 idiots. Then we see Adam saying it's strange for a high-class knight to make a comment like that. Gull answers that he doesn't really care. Adam tells the old man to be honest, and then we see what happened last night. Damien went to speak with him, thanking him for the offer, but saying he preferred to fight alone. Adam says, this Damien is a very interesting kid. Tell me, Gull, what do you think of him? Gull replies, let me see, well, he's actually an exceptional young man. Using mana in that split-second to block Howitz's attack is something unusual. Not many people can do that. Adam agrees and asks what Gull thinks about the duel. Can they win against Lionbloom? Gull says it's hard to tell. Duels involve 3 participants, and the victory goes to whichever side wins 2 matches first, meaning they could lose even if Damien fights perfectly. Adam asks how the rest of the trio is training. Gull says not to worry. They're training with Vincenzo, a decent knight. But from the protagonist's expression, it's very clear the man is not decent at all. Not only are these guys idiots, they're physically terrible, and their techniques have 0 substance. With this level of skill, winning is impossible. Damien covers his face and says, there's no other choice. I'm going to have to help them. He calls to the 3 pieces of trash. They turn around. Did you just call us trash? Damien approaches and says, we need to fight so you can train. Pebble says he's bold to challenge someone of his skill level. Fine, he'll be the first to fight the boy. But Damien says he must be misunderstanding something. He doesn't want to fight just one. He wants to fight all 3 at once. The 3 freeze for a moment, then start insulting him, calling him arrogant garbage. They drop their swords, saying, we don't like disrespecting the knight code, but if it's about beating a mutt, the harder the fight, the more he'll learn. They'd all go in to punch him, but one look at Damien's face and the next second Pebble is already on the ground. He gets up, confused. What happened? The other 2 are also on the floor. Damien asks, awake? Honestly, you're just as pathetic as I expected. He humiliates them, saying it's exhausting having to teach other people's knights, while Pebble is terrified. He remembers them attacking all together, and then nothing. 5 minutes earlier, we see it. The three charge in to punch him. Damien slits past the first, stares at the second, and taps the back of his neck twice, knocking him out. Then he goes straight for Pable midair and hits him right in the jaw, knocking him out instantly, and even gives him an extra one. The guy's eyes roll back. Now he wakes up asking if all three passed out. Truly, this kid is a monster. Damien removes the training weights, saying he didn't even break a sweat. He asks, "Who's been training you?" Pable answers, "We're being trained by Sir Sebastian Vincenzo, a mid-class knight." The protagonist finds it strange. A mid-class knight shouldn't be teaching them to fight like this. He wants to tell them to stop learning from that man, but that would only create unnecessary problems. So he says, "When your training with Vincenzo ends, come train with me. From now on, all of you will fight against me every day." Pable says that's impossible. If they get beaten every day, Vincenzo will notice something is off. The protagonist says it's fine. No matter how badly he beats them, he won't leave any marks. Pable notices it. Damien was literally pummeled earlier, yet he looks perfectly fine now. And the protagonist explains that in the past, he learned a very specific way of beating people. Then we see the story of a certain man who wandered across the continent humiliating criminals. His correction method was simple. He would beat someone for a full hour. If that didn't work, he doubled the time. According to legend, the longest he ever beat someone was 520 hours straight. But in the middle of that process, he finally started feeling sorry for all the bloody victims. That's when he began wondering if there was a way to hit someone without destroying their life or putting them at death's door. That was how he reached the level of a master and created a technique called the strike without marks. The protagonist says, "You understand now, right? How weak and useless you are. Don't worry too much, we still have 1 month until the duel. During that time, I'm going to turn you three into useless insects with at least some utility. They don't understand anything." And Damien tells everyone to get back to training when another man arrives calling for him, saying His Highness was looking for him. Damien asks what the problem is, and then we see Miss Chelsea had returned. "Welcome back." A little earlier, she had talked to her father, saying she'd finally come back after quite a while. Chelsea Gold Pixie, the Duke's eldest daughter, clearly someone who will cause problems in the protagonist's life. Howitz looks excited that she's safe. Adam asks, "Well, you were gone for more than a month. Did you bring any knight for the duel?" She says yes, glancing at the man beside her. The man stands up and introduces himself as Guillermo Blackwing, a wild beast. Everyone knows he's a notorious mercenary. Apparently, he fought in the Aclaren Kingdom War and massacred every low-class fighter he encountered. Rumor has it no low-ranked knight can defeat him. Adam looks excited, smiling, saying he's heard Guillermo earn that title for being a monster on the battlefield. The man proudly replies that he didn't expect even someone from the Apple Kingdom to know about him. Chelsea says, "Father, Guillermo swore loyalty to me and said he'll participate in the duel. He's definitely more than enough to defeat Michael Lionbloom." All the soldiers around agree. Guillermo has far more experience than Michael. Michael may be a genius, but with Guillermo in play, the result is practically guaranteed. Adam says it's great news, but things are about to get complicated. She asks why. He says he still hasn't introduced a certain person, the representative chosen for the duel. They all look back, and Damien Haxon has arrived. Chelsea looks furious at the protagonist. She asks, confused and angry, "Father, what do you mean by this? I told you to wait because I was looking for someone." He answers, "You told me, but I never said I would wait for you." She demands he switch to representative, but Adam says he'll think about it. Chelsea is desperate, shouting that there's nothing to think about. She's never even heard of this Damien before. The protagonist has already figured out this crazy woman is the Duke's daughter. She glares at him and says it's obvious he should choose Sir Guillermo instead. He's far more powerful and respected than some nameless kid. Damien notices Guillermo staring at him strangely. Adam says, "Well, without a doubt, Sir Guillermo has more reputation. But Damien here is strong enough to block Howitz's most powerful strike." Chelsea nudges her father and says, "I already know you don't want to acknowledge my abilities. Once again, your actions don't match your words, not with me and not with Mother." Adam tells her to watch what she says in front of guests. She smiles with that creepy expression and apologizes, saying she's just too tired from the long trip. The protagonist notices this family is clearly not very united. Adam tells her to leave so he can discuss things with everyone else, saying that's enough. But suddenly, Guillermo starts laughing like a lunatic. He says, "Your Highness, why are we even discussing this? We're real men here." Gull tells him to calm down and stop being rude. Guillermo then steps in front of Damien and says, "The strongest should represent us, right? Why don't we fight, and whoever wins gets the position?" Chelsea tells him to shut up, but Adam says it's fine. He's not wrong. He asks what Damien thinks. The protagonist realizes the Duke is testing him again. He knows he'll have to use his skills to resolve this. Damien answers, "Well, he's right. The strongest should represent, but I don't think we'll even need to fight." He simply stretches out his hand. Damien says he's actually eager to test something and adds, "Why don't we decide right here, right now, who's stronger?" Guillermo looks at him, then bursts out laughing, saying it's a shame the boy is about to lose an arm. Damien says Guillermo is a scary man, and because of that, he'll be kind and stop the moment Guillermo's arm dislocates. Guillermo laughs, saying he'll never let that happen. But in the next second, he's already immobilized and slammed into the floor. His eyes shoot wide open while Damien casually wipes his hand. Gull can only think that it was truly impressive. Guillermo clearly attacked first and had the advantage, but Damien moved much faster, immobilized him instantly, locked his arm, and threw him to the ground before he could react. Not only did the boy have talent, His fighting skills were abnormally refined. But then Guillermo jumps back up, furious, demanding how Damien dares humiliate him like that. Damien says, "You actually resisted more than I expected. I really was trying to dislocate your arm." Guillermo pulls out his weapons, not a sword, but 2 axes, shouting that he'll tear Damien apart. Chelsea orders him to stop, but he's already charging to split Damien in half. Suddenly, a powerful force slams into him, and he starts trembling violently. Gull asks how he dares draw weapons in front of his excellency. If he wants to die, that's the path. Guillermo is literally shaking himself wet while Damien thinks it's incredible. Just Gale's aura alone creates massive pressure. He's definitely not a high-class knight for nothing. Gull tells him he'll let it go this time out of respect for Chelsea's honor, but there won't be a second chance. Guillermo collapses to the ground exhausted. Adam claps his hands and says that after all the commotion, the decision is clear. Damien is the best option. Howitz tries to complain, saying it wasn't a fair fight. Guillermo hadn't recovered from the long journey while Damien was rested. Besides, Guillermo is a specialist in weapons, so the fight did reflect a real match. Chelsea insists too, saying that everything Howitz is saying is true. If they want to compare skill, it should be in an official fight, not in some stupid improvised scuffle. But Adam tells her to stop forcing the issue. She tries to insist again, but he slams his hand on the table and tells her to stop opening her mouth while being so incompetent. Take that. She shrinks back, embarrassed, apologizing. Even Howitz in the background looks scared. Then someone raises a hand. It's Damien, ready to stir up trouble, asking if he can say something. He says he would like to accept Miss Chelsea's proposal. She and Adam both look confused. And do you remember that the previous chapter ended right when our dear Damien said he would accept Lady Chelsea's proposal? Right after that, we're out on the street with Victor wanting to know why he accepted that duel. If he had just kept quiet, there wouldn't have been any trouble at all. Damien, however, only says that everything has a reason and glances to the side, noticing that they've arrived at the blacksmith the Duke mentioned. Adam had said that since his sword broke in that duel, he would allow him to take one for free. At that moment, someone inside looks over and Victor steps forward to introduce himself. The blacksmith replies that he already knew they were coming. They enter another room filled with shining swords and shields, and Damien looks to the side when something catches his attention. Before he can say anything, the blacksmith in the back says he knows that this is a very unique sword. It's an item that was commissioned by a knight who used to work for the Empire. However, it seems the knight ran into some kind of trouble, and in the end, he left before the sword was finished. Damien asks if the knight had handed over the non-unified metal to make it, and the blacksmith looks confused, not understanding how Damien knows that. Of course, Damien knows who is supposed to be the true owner of this sword, the one known as the Swordsman of Music. He then says he's going to take this sword, but the blacksmith hesitates, asking if he really knows what kind of metal it's made of. Damien answers that he does. Unlike other swords that increase the user's mana, this one absorbs mana and gives off a slight vibration. He grips the sword as it trembles in his hand. At that point, the blacksmith says that the one who commissioned it named this sword the Sword of 1,000 Miles. The door opens and our protagonist is already prepared when someone suddenly asks if he managed to find a weapon. When he looks over, it's a maid coming up the exit, seemingly defying gravity. Oh boy, just look at that expression. Her name is Rebecca, and she serves Lady Chelsea. And she tells him that the lady wants to have a little talk with our boy, but he immediately shuts that down, saying he has nothing in particular to discuss with her. Rebecca, however, says that the lady has more to offer than he might imagine. Those women trying to use the strongest power they have. Now our boy realizes these girls are going to keep pestering him. So maybe for now it's better to pretend he's going along with it. He agrees, and some time later, we're in the corridors of a restaurant that was reserved just for the two of them. He stops at the doorway. Come on in, kid. And the moment he steps inside, he senses a strange smell. Wine being poured into a glass, her saying he's late and telling him to sit down already. Look at that little villain smile. Now we're about to see if our boy stands by gender equality. He's already wondering why he was even called there while she tells him not to rush. But our tough guy answers that he's not there to waste time and tells her to get to the point. She says fine then, and obviously tells him she's there to make him give up being a representative. Damien replies that it seems she doesn't trust Gilherm, and she tells him to stop being stupid. If that guy picks up the axe, he'll be cut in half. But she's making this request because she wants to preserve her strength for the duel against the Marquis family. It would be foolish for them to get injured in a meaningless duel. The protagonist thinks that this seductress actually has a point. But then comes the question, what does he get out of this? Tell me. She says that if he gives up, she'll make all his wishes come true. But he's not fallen for the trap. He asks if she even knows what he really wants. She says that for a noble from a rural estate, it's obvious. He wants money and fame. Of course, our boy isn't impressed and even says it would be better to ask the Duke for that. She replies that it might make sense now, but it would be better for him to stand by the future Duke, clearly trying to set up a little family power game. The last grain of sand falls from the hourglass just as she tells him to give up and sends a wave of energy toward him, but he just smiles back and says he's really not interested. Looks like she tried some kind of magical trick, and she's shocked that it didn't work. What she tried to use was something called charm fragrance, a type of dark magic that creates fake affection to manipulate people. But since he used dark magic in his past life, he sensed it the moment he walked into that room. See that? E-girl perfume. The story classifies it as dark magic, and I agree. Thanks to having authority over greed, he absorbed it. He stands up, saying that things clearly didn't go the way she expected. She's completely confused, asking how he dares to reject her. She promises she'll give him anything he wants. Really? What if what he wants is a healthy, functional family? Yeah, good luck with that. I joked about it, but right after that, she actually asked, "So what do you want?" And he answered, "My family's happiness." Wow, pretty predictable, right? The kid shook her. Now she realizes she's powerless there. She's defeated. It really is a strong argument. Even today, it would still work. She stands there in shock, asking if family is really that important to him. Now she snaps. She stands up and says she'll have to play a different way then. If he doesn't give up being a representative, she'll send someone to wipe out House Haxon. She slams him onto the table, and look at the veins on her arm all tense as she grips his neck. She's demanding to know how he dares to lay a hand on her. And then the guards burst the door open, asking what that noise was. Right away, they draw their swords and order him to let her go. But the protagonist releases her for a split second, and in the next instant he's already gone, giving both of them a quick slash across the neck. Wow, that was way too kind, wasn't it? He says the cut wasn't deep, so if they just use a potion, they won't die. Then he calls her Chelsea, the gold Pixie, and says that this time, even though he'd really like to rip her throat out right now, he's going to be merciful and won't punish her. But hold on, he's being merciful because that wouldn't be enough punishment. Wouldn't it be better for her to stay anxious about the horrible things that are going to happen to her from now on? Damn, that left the young woman trembling. Rebecca then rushes in asking what the problem is, while the other one completely loses it too, screaming that this bastard dared to insult her and now he'll be killed no matter the cost. She calls for someone named Mustang Fury. I thought a big tough soldier was about to show up, but instead it's the king of fast food. And the young woman is screaming, practically foaming at the mouth, asking why the charm fragrance didn't work on that boy. The fast food king calmly explains that some people occasionally have a strong immunity to dark magic, but that it's extremely rare. She slacks him across the face. Still, maybe that chubby guy likes it. You must work there just to get hit. Chelsea then asks where that bastard Guillermo Blackwing is, and he says Guillermo is at the tavern relaxing. She's furious that the idiot is drinking when he's supposed to fight tomorrow. She asks if the fast food king is absolutely sure Guillermo will defeat Haxon. Poor guy says he guarantees it because Guillermo is the knight with the greatest affinity for dark magic. Poor fool, he really won't stand a chance. Chelsea is losing her mind more and warns him that if Guillermo loses, he'll be the first to die. Meanwhile, the protagonist is up there, forming his aura, listening to everything. Next chapter. Later that night, we're in his room and he's playing around with the vibrating sword. As he observes it, he thinks he never imagined he'd already run into dark mages. Now he's sure Chelsea has some connection to them. And that Dan Guillermo clearly used dark magic too. He flicks the sword, sending a wave through the entire room. He decides that instead of explaining everything to the Duke, he'll just let him see it all for himself. Next day. Guillermo is stretching and shouting while the people in the background say he really does look insanely strong. The skinny guy on the left asks, "Hey, purple-haired pretty boy, what do you think? Who's going to win?" Pablo thinks for a moment and says it's probably Guillermo. Everyone starts celebrating. At least they'll stop getting beaten by Damien every day. Then Pablo closes his eyes and says yes, he also wants him to lose. But deep down, he's thinking he wants the young master to win. Uh-oh, looks like someone's in love. I said the pretty boy thing as a joke, but he's really committing to the role. And now we're face to face with Guillermo, who's standing there with a black eye, saying there's no way he can lose. The protagonist, meanwhile, is stretching, saying his shoulder's a bit sore and that he didn't sleep well last night. Adam, seated on the throne, announces that whoever wins today will take the position of representative. He shoots a glance to the side and says everyone involved had better accept the result. And the demonic e-girl is just staring, saying that her father doesn't expect what's going to happen when Guillermo wins. Adam then raises the cloth and throws it into the air, signaling the start of the duel. Guillermo activates a stained purple aura and tells Damien that his biggest mistake was accepting this duel. And now he's about to show exactly why he's called the Wild Beast. The first axe swing comes straight at the protagonist, who just flicks his sword, and damn, the shockwave leaves Guillermo completely confused. He doesn't feel anything at first, but in the next instant, he's sent flying. He's lying there all twisted, not understanding what just happened. Meanwhile, the Onleifen's queen is already starting to tremble. Adam is impressed by a technique this unusual. Guillermo rushes in, saying he doesn't know what kind of ridiculous magic that is, but before he can even finish speaking, he gets hit by 3 more vibrating sword strikes. His arm twists unnaturally and he's already wrecked. Then he gets slashed right across the face, nose smashed, blood pouring everywhere. And the protagonist still hasn't even moved from his spot. The kid looks like a magical swordsman now, lifting his blade and saying he's done playing. He drives the sword into the ground and an aura starts spreading out. Guillermo is completely lost, having no idea what's going on. Then a purple aura suddenly appears around him, swallowing him up. He starts vomiting, spewing some strange sludge onto the ground, while Adam has no clue what's happening. And wow, the e-girl is in total shock. He keeps throwing up as the protagonist approaches and says that now his true nature has been revealed. So what was he really? A fake knight? Now I'm confused too. Like, was he never the real Guillermo? Or was Guillermo always weak? Everyone's standing there with the same dumbfounded look. The protagonist sheaths his sword and says that this guy was boosting his physical abilities using dark magic. In other words, he was never a real knight. While everyone is staring in disbelief, Rebecca quietly slips away using some hidden movement. I saw that. Adam is at a loss for words and asks if Damien already knew. He says yes and apologizes for not telling him earlier. The reason was that he wanted Adam to realize who was behind all of this. Then the protagonist reveals that there are dark mages infiltrated within House Gold Pixie, and the person most deeply involved with them is dear Lady Chelsea. She immediately turns to her father and says, "You don't believe this, right?" But Adam just clenches his teeth and asks how she dared to bring trash like this into his house. He calls the soldiers over, telling them not to just stand there. Chelsea and everyone working for her are to be arrested. Guillermo was already being dragged away and she's surrounded by swordsmen. She's thinking that if she's captured now, everything will be exposed. She orders them to protect her and yeah, a family clash is about to erupt. But at that moment, Adam calls for Gale, telling the old man to take care of Chelsea. Gale simply bows as he approaches the chaos and everyone starts trembling. One look from him and he doesn't even attack. He just tells them to move aside. They know they don't stand a chance. Still, some people get brave, don't they? Blind loyalty is brutal. One guy rushes in, basically throwing his life away just to buy a few seconds for another fool to escape. That's what blind devotion gets you. The old man draws his sword, swings once, and it's over for both of them, sliced clean through. Chelsea was lucky she ducked at the last second, but when she looks to the side, her loyal followers are completely torn apart. Blood splashes onto her face, severed limbs hit the floor, and Gil keeps walking toward her. She's shaking uncontrollably. Suddenly, she looks to the side and calls out to Sir Ernst. Yep, throwing another loyal follower under the bus. She's begging, "Please save me, please save me." Honestly, her power really is being the queen of blind devotion. The guy jumps into the fight. It's insane. These people really are willing to die for her. My God. The old man stays calm and says, "Sir Ernst, you are a mid-rank knight who has contributed greatly to this house. Even Adam respects you. However, if you insist on defending Lady Chelsea, you will have to be executed right now." Just from sensing the old man's aura, Ernst starts sweating cold, lowers his head, and drops to his knees. Good choice. At least his head worked for once. Thank goodness. With that woman is finally arrested. She starts screaming, yelling, "Father, help me." But he only replies, "Be quiet. You're worthless." He even glares at her and says that bringing her into this family was the biggest mistake of his life. Yeah, a modern story in a medieval setting. She keeps crying and screaming, saying she didn't do anything, telling them to let her go, saying she can't take this anymore. Her father just orders them to dry her away and shut her mouth. She's pulled off while staring back, biting her fingers and screaming, while the protagonist stands in the background with a faint smile. Villain behavior, he really crushed her. A few days later, we're in a prison and someone is going through that famous torture. Dan. Even the guy doing the torturing looks like he's been tortured before. Bowling ball head with a star-shaped mark on it. Gull is there too, and the guy in the chair says he's already told them everything he knows. Something about a certain scent that makes people want to obey Lady Chelsea. The old man says that's enough and orders them to bring the next one in, thinking things are unfolding just as he expected. Chelsea had been expanding her influence and helping dark mages. The only thing he can't understand is why she would do something like that. Chelsea is lying there in the middle of the room like a cockroach on the street. Dirty, stinking, unable to believe this is happening, remembering her father and thinking that all she ever wanted was to be acknowledged. Here comes the drama. Don't even try the sob story. Take that slap and move along. That's right, get out. She's full of hatred, wondering why Adam always looked at her so coldly. In her cell, seething, someone throws her a piece of bread. She bites into it like it's a rock, saying she doesn't care how humiliated she's been. She'll survive no matter what. Meanwhile, the guard is giving her a hard stare. The protagonist, as always, is stretching his arms, saying today's training was intense again. Suddenly, he runs into Victor, who tells him that His Majesty is looking for him. Wine in the glass, Adam tells the boy to try it, praising it as good. Seriously, old man calling the kid to drink wine at night. Just the two of them. He even offers some angelic bacon from the Blanco region. When the boy takes a bite, Adam reveals that regarding Chelsea's situation, he'll have to accept help from the church. The protagonist says that's surprising and Adam agrees, saying he truly feels guilty after all the help the boy has given. Still, he can't let this slide, especially since dark mages infiltrated them. The protagonist asks what he means and Adam explains that they captured all of Chelsea's associates, but none of the dark mages were among them. In fact, the maid and the fast food king escaped before they could be caught. That's why Adam wants the church to hunt them down, so no one suspects that the family is protecting or hiding them. The protagonist asks whether Chelsea revealed anything about who they were and Adam says no. Not even under intense torture did she say a word. Intense torture? Hell no. She still had both arms, both legs, and was eating. I make her talk. Adam taps his glass on the table and says she wasn't always like this. Then he explains that Chelsea's mother was an ordinary woman. Yeah, a shameless king getting involved with a commoner. When he was younger and just another night, he met her by chance. After 5 rounds of chess, she got pregnant. But the peasant woman only showed up when the airdrop had already landed on the server. He was so shocked that he slammed the door shut on the spot, giving the mother a chance to be an independent woman and raise the child on her own. Honestly, the king really is a villain. Time passed, but he grew curious about what had been in that airdrop, so he ordered an investigation. And that's when he found out the mother couldn't handle life alone and died from disease. The devil's child, however, survived on her own. So yeah, you also raise a little villain king, for the love of God. He's laughing like a madman, saying he never imagined he would act like that and now doesn't even know why he did it. He wonders why, in the end, he saved Chelsea. Considering what she became, maybe it really would have been better to put an end to it back then. Our boy says he understands that she was family, and that's why she ended up acting that way. But Adam replies that he's not sure. He doesn't believe she truly wanted to be part of the family. He doesn't think she acted like that just because she wanted recognition from him. If that were the case, she should have lived the normal life of a noble girl. He leans back, saying he's had too much to drink and it's time to leave. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door asking if His Highness is there. Adam asks what it is, and the person reveals that something terrible has happened. Down in the prison, Lady Chelsea had been testing the strength of the castle's ropes. But honestly, there's no reason to feel sorry or even be surprised. We know that maid or that guy at the door. Someone did something to let her get out alive. Next chapter. Victor is walking along, telling our boy to at least wash his own underwear because it all smells awful. Damien glances to the side and sees the king lost in thought, remembering that it's been 4 days since Chelsea's death. Under these circumstances, everyone believes it was a suicide. Now, even the interrogations of the others involved with her have been concluded. And because she put the family at risk, she was buried in a very basic grave. No visitors, just a stone and nothing else. At least on the surface, it seems the crisis that hit the gold pixies has come to an end. But our boy knows dark mages far too well and understands that this isn't how it's going to end. Victor is yelling at him to pay attention, and our boy pats him, telling him to stop being annoying. Later that night, with Karapika's moon in the sky, Ernst is wandering around, drinking calmly. He stumbles into an alley, missing Lady Chelsea. He remembers her when she was all sweet, saying, "Sir Ernst, do you think father will like flowers?" "Miss Chelsea, I'm not sure. He hates you, but I like him a lot." He spins her around like an idiot. "Get out of here, author." Making her seem cute, saying, "My mother liked flowers, so father will like them too." "Do you really think I'm going to believe that nonsense?" Ernst smiles and says he's sure. But back in the present, he apologizes, saying he couldn't protect her. He pounds his chest, calling himself an idiot, a bastard, saying he should have died with her back then. Sometime later, he's exhausted from hitting his own chest when she appears. The devil's daughter herself. That cursed maid? He looks back, and what the hell? In the blink of an eye, he slams her against the wall, asking how she dares to show her face there again. She tries to explain, starts to mention Chelsea, but he cuts her off, telling her to shut up, calling her a filthy dark mage who slept with a demon. She's there struggling, saying she wants help to get revenge, while he demands that she explain herself. The maid makes something up, saying that Chelsea didn't actually kill herself. She died during the torture, and they made it look like that. He drops her to the ground and asks how she dares to say something like that. When she showed up, didn't you notice she was wearing a little pink necklace? I'm sure they're going to use that same kind of magic again, my god, seriously. A person's true strength is how much they can avoid being influenced by others. That line's good enough to put on my gravestone. The maid is there saying, "Do you really think Chelsea would die like that? Do you think she was that kind of person?" She was clearly completely broken. Like I already said, the torture wasn't even that extreme. She still had both arms and both legs, so she was still fine. But Ernst isn't exactly the strongest-willed person. The maid starts crying, shouting, saying, "You have to help us. We need to get revenge." She even adds, "I approached Chelsea with different intentions at first, but she treated me like a real sister, and I can't let this go." There it is, the devil's trick to win him over, saying that for them to get revenge, they'll need Ernst's help. He takes that e-girl breath straight to the face, and suddenly he's all flustered, asking what he has to do. The bottle hits the ground as he rushes off, while the fast food king disappears, saying that now they've finally succeeded. That effect would definitely work on someone of mid-rank. Rebecca agrees, saying that no matter how strong someone is, everyone has a weakness in their heart, and in Ernst's case, Chelsea herself was that weakness. The cursed maid smiles, calling him an idiot who didn't even realize who actually killed Chelsea. So wait, she really did die? And on top of that, that guy was the one who dealt the final blow. Damn, who needs enemies when you have friends like that? Rebecca then asks if they really have to kill Damien. The fast food king says yes, they can't just sit around doing nothing. He's sure the boy is a spy from the church. On top of that, Damien interfered with that person's plan, which makes it unforgivable. Damien doesn't know who they really are, and now that he thinks they've disappeared, he'll be caught off guard. Our protagonist is calm, but as he returns to the castle, still warmed up from training, those 3 fools who get beaten every day are staring at him. Something flickers past the candle, and they rush in to attack him, but their 3 swords strike nothing. He appears behind the first one and sends him flying. And of course, the pretty boy is already down and out while the other 2 back off. The protagonist says they're honestly kind of pathetic. He already told them they could do absolutely anything to try to attack him, and even with this sloppy ambush, they still failed. Pebble is scared of getting a sword to the face again. But the protagonist says they're not training today. He has other things to take care of. The guys look nervous, and he asks if they're actually hoping to get beaten. Pebble suddenly smiles and says no, on the contrary, they're happy they don't have to train. Still, he wonders if Damien really was training them, since he thought the guy was just beating them up every day. The protagonist tells them it's good to rest, especially since the duel of the Marquis family is coming up soon. From now on, they won't train together anymore, so they'd better think carefully and study what they've learned. The guys remember that everything they've learned so far came from getting beaten every single day. Meanwhile, Damien thinks to himself that apparently no one understood what he was trying to teach them. The reason he had been training with those guys from the very beginning wasn't something as simple as just physical training. His goal was completely different. He glances to the side and notices that at least the pretty boy seemed to be starting to understand things. He sets the weights down and walks off, thinking that maybe something different will happen in this fight. Clear blue skies, wide plains. Adam approaches, saying they took a bit longer than expected. He then asks Haxon, "So, what did you think of them?" The protagonist looks at the incoming group and says that those fighters really are high-level knights. It's not just the equipment they're wearing, the skill of each individual there is truly formidable. Adam laughs and says, "Those bastards from Lionbloom really know how to train soldiers." Meanwhile, the protagonist just notices that Adam is smiling a little too much. Gull then calls out, saying, "Your Excellency, it seems we've received a message from the Marquis. We'll be meeting the representatives shortly." Adam grabs the reins of his horse and tells him to move out. The scene shifts to the Lionbloom camp. There's Roland, the father whose son was humiliated. He's calling for someone named Michael, kicking the boy to wake him up. So this must be the so-called genius of the house, the strongest one, Michael Lionbloom, the blonde kid. I'm just watching, wondering why he's being woken up when the sleep was so good. His father orders him out of bed immediately, saying he has an important role in this duel. The guy barely reacts, just saying it's fine. He'll go face that damn Damien. Michael stands up and asks, "Hey, why is that Haxon guy with them?" His father snaps back, "Idiot, were you asleep and didn't hear?" It seems Damien was chosen as their representative. Suddenly, Michael's expression changes completely, and he says that now things are different. Back on the plains, Adam comments that the fact they took so long shows they're still disrespectful. Roland replies that caring about something so trivial proves Adam is still stubborn. The two clearly hate each other. Gull cracks a grin, and Roland tells him he should leave the house and come work for him instead. Roland then looks to the side and asks if that's the boy. Adam confirms, saying yes, Damien Haxon. Roland is obviously furious. This is the one who humiliated his son and his knights. He wanted the chance to personally crush him. But as he stares, he feels something strange. How could someone like him, a high-class knight, feel this way standing in front of a kid like that? Either the boy has some hidden potential, or he might actually be able to go head-to-head with Michael. Then he senses something even stranger. Hold on, why is Michael blushing while staring at Damien? The protagonist is confused. Okay, wait, no. I thought he was about to fall in love, but it's more like a battle fanatic itching to jump at the protagonist. Damien is standing there when suddenly Roland blocks Michael's advance, ordering him to stop. Roland looks surprised, like he noticed something no one else did. He says, "Sir Michael, how dare you draw your sword in front of His Highness?" Adam also warns him to remember that drawing a sword before a noble is a very serious crime. Looks like this is about to turn into a real mess. Roland tries to defend his son, saying he was simply showing his desire for victory, but Adam asks whether he truly thinks they're going to let something that foolish slide. Roland realizes things have become complicated and wonders if the boy acted without even realizing it, almost as if he were responding to a wild beast. Adam thinks to himself that this is a good opportunity. He then says, "Well, there's nothing to be done. I should cancel this duel, but fine, I'll let this slide." Roland knows something is coming, and Adam continues, "I want to add a few more rewards to this duel." Roland tells him to say what he wants, but all we see is the king's little smile. Whatever it was, Roland grits his teeth and says it's fine, he accepts everything. He immediately turns and tells Michael to come over, while Adam waves goodbye, saying they'll see each other later. Adam then turns to the protagonist and asks, "That was strange. Why did Michael draw his sword to attack you?" The protagonist gestures dismissively and says you wouldn't get it. Still, it seems he knows it's because the boy awakened his sixth sense at that age. Maybe this duel really will be interesting. Roland then asks his son, "Why did you draw your sword, you idiot?" Michael just asks if his father noticed it. At the moment he moved to attack, Damien was smiling as if he already knew Michael would draw his sword. And there he goes again, blushing, saying he's eager to face that opponent. Roland realizes that when Michael talks about Damien, his expression changes in a strange way. Michael apologizes and says, "You have to accept those disadvantages because of me. What do we do now?" Roland just smiles and replies, "There's nothing to worry about. All we need to do is win." The flag is raised and the first match is about to begin. Adam says, "This first one is important to set the pace. Who are we sending, Damien?" Someone in the background asks, "Your Majesty, may I recommend someone?" It's Sebastian Vincenzo, who says he's the one who trained the knights. He claims he can recommend someone far better than Damien could. The protagonist recognizes him right away. This is the useless guy who trained Pabel. He knows the reason for this. Vincenzo is afraid Damien will steal his credit. Still, he decides to let the guy embarrass himself and agrees. He says it's a great suggestion and that they'll see who Mr. Vincenzo wants to recommend. Sebastian smiles, thanks him, and says, "For the first match, I recommend Fabian Vincenzo." He recommends his own family member. Not only is the kid going to get beaten, he's also going to bring shame to his father. Fabian looks eager as Adam says that he's Vincenzo's son, praising his incredible talent and saying he expects him to win. Damien looks ahead and sees that the other side sent Ronald, who very clearly looks like Donald Trump. Damn, the guy's about to fight the President of the United States. Poor Fabian, he's about to get destroyed. Fabian shouts, "Hey bastard, tell me your family name." Ronald calmly replies that he doesn't have a family name. Fabian laughs and says, "A mere peasant dares face me? Looks like you don't know I've already mastered the techniques of the Vincenzo family." Ronald smiles and says that nobles really like fighting with their tongues. Before he can finish, Fabian charges in, saying he'll show the difference in their status. People start cheering. The first attack comes and Ronald dodges it easily. Fabian tries a quick slash to the side, but Ronald stays relaxed, calling him pathetic. Fabian goes in again, and then Ronald activates a red aura on his sword and rips Fabian's arm clean off. Adam doesn't react much at all, while Fabian's father is in shock. Ronald even looks at him and says, "You're fired." The victory of the first duel clearly goes to House Lionbloom. Fabian is carried away as the protagonist quietly observes. He didn't expect that guy to be that weak. Adam is furious, saying the Lionblooms really are a bunch of bastards. It was supposed to be a simple duel, so why were they cutting people's arms off? Now he asks, "So, Damien, what do we do now? There are 3 matches and we already lost the first one." Damien replies, "I can't go now. If I do, Michael might hold back and fight later, and we'll end up losing. But it's fine because I know the perfect person for this match." And of course is poor Pabel, who's standing there wondering why he's being dragged into this. Damien just walks off, telling him to remember all the beatings he took, that there's no way he can lose. Everyone starts cheering for the poor guy, while Adam asks if he's really sure this is a good choice. Pabel never stood a chance against Damien before. Damien answers, "Don't worry, your highness. I've been giving him special training since the very first days." Pabel, meanwhile, looks like he's about to throw up. And just like that, the second duel begins. He's shaking, thinking, "I only came here because I had no choice, but what am I supposed to do? That guy had his arm cut off right in front of me. The same thing is going to happen to me." The opponent steps forward and says, "My name is Huey Selection." The moment Pabel looks at him, he realizes this guy is way stronger than he is. He replies awkwardly, "My name is Pabel Bermond." Huey says, "I thought it would be that damn Damien. That's disappointing. But fine, I'll end this quickly and take the victory." Pabel tries to focus, telling himself he has to win, when suddenly Huey's sword is already at his neck. He barely manages to raise his arm, but he's sent flying to the side. Huey is surprised, wondering how this kid managed to block that. He really is better than expected. Pabel thinks he just got lucky, but in the next instant, Huey swings again. Pabel rolls to the side. Smoke fills his vision, the blade cuts through it, and he blocks once more. Now Huey is confused. How did this kid block an attack that came from his blind spot? Both of them step back, while Pabel thinks this is impossible. And then it hits him. This is why Damien believed he would win. And Damien is thinking, "So you finally noticed." The fencing style I've been using against him in every training session was the Lionbloom style, the sword art of the Great Lion. After being beaten so many times, he instinctively learned the patterns. Now he can predict the next move, even with his eyes closed. Pabel dodges another strike, realizing it really is the same sword style. Of course, fighting Damien was on a completely different level. He thanks Damien, saying that now he can finally see the difference between the two of them. And now he's fired up, saying this is the perfect moment for his swordsmanship to break past its limits. He launches a piercing slash toward the sky, nearly hitting the opponent's head, leaving a small cut on his cheek. That was it. He falls flat on the ground, landing on his backside, and Pabel declares his victory. The knights are in shock, unable to believe it, while Pabel stands there full of pride. The second duel goes to House Gold Pixie, and now, at last, it's time for what really matters. Michael steps forward and says, "In the end, it'll be our duel that decides everything. You and me, Damien Raxham." The protagonist glances back, then steps forward, saying yes, that's exactly how he wanted it. Michael's already flushed, saying he's been eager for this. He's always wanted to meet someone like Damien, someone just like him, someone who can stand against him head-on. The protagonist replies the same, and laughs at that. Michael is already drawing his sword, saying he's going to have to ask the boy not to disappoint him, and he charges in with the first strike. But the next chapter starts a little earlier, with Huey asking to be killed. Roland says, "Hey, idiot, get up already. You only lost because the other guy was stronger. Besides, it's fine. The victory is still ours because Michael is on our side." Huey thanks His Excellency and leaves. Roland stays behind, thinking, something's not right. Huey was definitely stronger than any knight from House Lionbloom. So why did he lose to that kid? It felt like his attacks were being anticipated. The Lionbloom fencing art is something no one else knows, so there's no way it could have leaked. Roland calls Michael over. Michael is trembling, blushing non-stop, saying he's never felt this excited in his entire life. Fired up, that's for sure. He finally found someone exactly like him. He's convinced he'll win and bring back the victory. Roland just tells him to enjoy the fight with everything he has. The weirdo keeps drooling there, all red-faced. Then comes a flashback to Michael as a child. It was fun. When I first started learning my father's swordsmanship, it was incredibly enjoyable. I had so many expectations, wondering how many powerful heroes existed in the world. But as time went on, my expectations and interest faded. Even the knights people talked about as being strong were nothing special. Victory always came naturally and felt boring. In the end, I even gave up swordsmanship, until he finally appeared in front of me. And the duel resumes at the moment he told the boy not to disappoint him and rush forward. The sword is already right in front of the protagonist's eye when he dodges to the side. Michael smiles, spins the blade, and goes for his neck. But Damien looks almost bored. Then, what was that? He punches the guy's sword arm. What is this? Michael freezes in shock as something comes straight at his face. He almost takes a brutal kick between the legs. The protagonist fights dirty. Michael gets sent flying upward Dragon Ball style. He lands far away, but he's still smiling. In the next instant, he charges again with another combo, but it feels like everything is missing. He stays excited until he realizes the protagonist passed right by him without him even noticing. Now he's wondering how his attacks are being blocked so easily. Still, he keeps smiling, saying that, as expected, his eye hadn't deceived him from the start. Damien really was the best. He launches another attack at the protagonist, but when the dust settles, Damien is just standing there calm. Michael asks, "How long are you going to keep dodging? Go ahead and draw your sword already. Only then will this finally be worth enjoying." Damien starts to draw his blade, but Michael smiles, saying there's no way his sword would reach him first. But the smile vanishes the moment his sword is destroyed. And wait, what? Did his head just get cut off? Seriously? What? His head hits the ground. That's insane. I did not expect that. No way. Then, no, never mind, the author baited us. That happened because he sensed he was about to die, and he drops to his knees instead. Damn it. It would have been so good if he'd actually been killed, wouldn't it? His father stands there in shock, yelling for the bastard to get up and draw his sword. But the poor guy is clutching his neck, trying to understand what just happened. He's certain he died back there. Damien then asks, "So, are you going to stay crouched there? Or do you still think you're the same as me?" The guy trembles and realizes he passed out because of an illusion. And with that, he admits that in the end he lost. That means the third duel goes to House Gold Pixie. Next chapter. Someone is telling everyone to drink and enjoy themselves while Roland is standing there furious. It's Adam, obviously saying there's liquor for everyone because the party will be more fun with everyone together. Trump is thanking him, but then freezes when he notices Roland glaring at him. Adam walks over and says, "Come on, Marquis, relax a bit. Everything's settled now. All we need to do is enjoy ourselves." He fills Roland's glass and adds, "As the winner, I'll do you this courtesy." Meanwhile, the weirdo Michael is glued to our boy. "We're all the same. You're so strong. I want to get to know you. Get away, kid." And then he drops this line, "Just by looking at you, I could tell you were powerful, even before crossing swords. What do you even say to someone like that? I miss the days when the main enemy was that church girl." Roland, on the other hand, can't believe Michael lost in such a ridiculous way. Wait, did he really lose without even drawing his sword? So everything that happened was basically a mental duel? What is this, Akatsuki? Are we dealing with Itachi now? Did Damien just hit him with some Mangakyo-level illusion? Damien realizes that Adam is cruel. He set up this whole gathering just to humiliate Roland over his defeat. Still, Damien doesn't really care. He achieved his original goal. He brought victory to this house and made sure the Lion Blooms will think twice before messing with them again. But there's still unfinished business, especially when he remembers that cursed maid and her group. And here comes Michael again, trying to drink next to Damien, red-faced, saying he respects him. Before Damien can reply, Michael keeps going, saying, "My whole life, I never thought I'd meet someone with the same level of strength as me at my age." Damien knows that Michael has super senses, a power beyond any normal human. That's how he was able to fight Damien inside that mental space, something Michael himself created. And it was there that he realized he was dealing with someone on a completely different level. The gap between them was something he couldn't even measure properly. It was probably the first time he ever felt real fear. At least that instinct is what kept him alive. If he had fought seriously, losing an arm would have been the bare minimum. Now Michael is blushing again, saying the world is much bigger than he imagined. Damien asks if he wants some advice. Of course he says yes. Damien then says, "Just like you realized the world is vast. Your talent isn't common, but it's not unique to you either. In this empire alone, I can think of at least 3 people with greater talent than yours, so it's best you don't become arrogant or think, even for a second, that you're the best." That was a harsh reality check, but also a lesson. Damien thinks about how, at one point, he also believed he was the strongest, until the day he was defeated by the Lich. Michael then asks, "So, Damien, you live with that mindset too?" Damien replies, "No, not really. I truly am the best there is right now. What I mean is, if I were as weak as you, I wouldn't be standing still." The guy just got completely roasted, but he's still fired up, saying he won't forget this. Adam approaches and says they grew close pretty quickly. He looks at Roland and adds, "Friendship among the young is always good to see." The protagonist asks what brings him over. Adam says he finished talking with the Marquis and came to speak with him. Before the duel, they had agreed that if Damien won, he could choose a treasure from Roland's chest. However, even after being defeated, Roland refused, so Adam had to strike a different deal. Roland stands there seething, saying he'll never forgive that damned Damien for what he did to Erwin. But given the circumstances, there's nothing he can do. He steps up to our boy and says that first he wants to apologize for sending knights just to show off his military power. Unfortunately, even so, he can't open the chest for him. On the other hand, as both an apology and a gift for the duel, he'll give him something else. A ring with spatial magic, crafted by the White Tower, capable of storing up to 100 kilos. The protagonist knows an item like that is worth as much as a small castle. It's different from the original promise. There was something he wanted from that chest, but it's fine. He thanks him and accepts it. Roland adds that if he needs anything else, he should just ask. Even if they can't open the chest, they still have other powerful items. The protagonist knows this family really is the greatest in the Kingdom of the Apple, so they must have plenty of good stuff. In theory, there's a certain item that should be with them. Thinking about it, he tells Roland that he wants a bow. Roland looks confused, wondering why. That's unexpected. The protagonist replies that it'll be necessary for marrying off his younger brother. As he says this, his brother peeks over while holding one of the protagonist's cursed, needle-filled items. The scene shifts to the gold Pixie residence. Adam asks if the boy is leaving. They had prepared a banquet for him. He should stay. But the protagonist says they've been there a long time already, and it's time to return to his family. Adam says that's fine, but asks him to wait a bit longer so he can assign some knights to escort him. The protagonist finds that strange, but Adam says he knows he's strong. Still, an ambush is always possible. The protagonist wants to refuse, but he already declined the dinner and doesn't want to be rude, so he agrees. They mount their horses and head home. Victor says they finally managed to resolve this incident. The protagonist gives him a look and asks if he ever thought they wouldn't. Victor complains that coming was easy since they arrived by carriage, but now he has to walk back. Damien thinks to himself that those guys should walk anyway, might help them get in shape. One of the knights tells the protagonist they'll set up camp since it's already night. The sky above, a campfire on the ground, guards on watch, and Victor eating as always. He invites the knights to join, but they say it's fine, they'll eat later. Damien remembers that when he left, Pabel and the others were sad, asking him to stay longer. Pabel thanked him, saying it was thanks to Damien that he discovered the strength he possessed. Truly, he had done a great service for the Duke's house. The protagonist scratches his head a bit unsure, while the others are excited, saying they'll remember everything he did forever. The three of them thank him. The protagonist smiles. Back in the forest, the soldiers start feeling something strange and exchange uneasy looks. One of them tells Damien he's going to check the perimeter, but the protagonist says he doesn't think that's necessary. Right at that moment, something purple comes flying in and strikes one of them straight in the chest. The poor guy is thrown against a wall. That was a brutal thrust. Someone then speaks up, saying they didn't expect the Duke to actually send an escort, but these were just low-level knights anyway. The lance is pulled out of the man's chest and into the hand of the obvious culprit, Sir Ernst, completely consumed by madness. Everyone starts asking why he's doing this. And then McDonald's guy and Rebecca show up, saying they finally found these pests. Right away, Rebecca uses her ability on another knight, who instantly starts drooling. The protagonist apologizes, saying he doesn't have a choice, and strikes Victor in the back of the neck, knocking him out cold. Then Rebecca uses another power, forcing a man to twist his own neck until he drops lifeless to the ground. Honestly, she could have knocked him out too, right? No mercy at all. Rebecca comments that it's interesting. Damien's level is low, yet he isn't affected. She says she's very curious to kill him and start dissecting him. Ernst steps forward and says, "So we finally meet, Damien. I'll make sure you're torn in half for what you did to Chelsea." He launches the first attack and Damien just laughs, saying Ernst is funny. Someone who is terrified in front of Gale is now trying to act brave, blaming others just because he failed to protect her. Rebecca chimes in, saying Damien really is heartless, hurting a man with a broken heart, but she wonders why he seems so confident. It's amusing that he believes he has any chance of winning this. Damien then asks, "You're executive rank dark mages from Yoan, aren't you?" Rebecca looks confused, wondering how he already knows that. Damien replies that he has sharp ears. Ernst raises his lance and says all that confidence is meaningless, because today Damien will die painfully. He charges at Damien, but suddenly someone rushes in and delivers a powerful kick, intercepting the attack. What just happened? Someone gets sent flying. Damien says they're completely mistaken, because he's not alone. And who is this guy? Sebastian Vincenzo. We see a flashback to when Damien thanked Adam for everything so far. That's when Adam mentioned that Ernst had disappeared. This was someone Damien was absolutely certain would come after him, since Ernst was involved in Chelsea's death and would probably seek revenge alongside the dark mages whose plans Damien ruined. Adam was calm because he had Gil protecting him. But for Damien, things could be different. That's why Adam decided to send another capable knight to stay by his side. That's when Sebastian entered the room and Adam explained that the other knights were already on missions. Sebastian was the only one left. Adam said, "Sebastian, I trust you." Sebastian thanked His Majesty and said he would protect Damien with his life. Back in the fight, Damien says he chose to keep Vincenzo hidden so these people would reveal themselves, and they fell right into the trap. The trio is now in shock while Damien expresses his thanks. Adam really did help him out this time. Ernst, however, smiles and tells Sebastian it's been a long time since they last met. He asks what the hell Sebastian is doing there. Sebastian replies that he won't let anyone involved in Chelsea's death stay alive. Sebastian says that she took her own life, and Ernst immediately shouts at him to stop lying. He knew how strong her mind was. A woman like her would never take her own life. He's certain she was killed during the interrogation, and he won't let her death go unanswered. First, he'll kill everyone involved, and in the end, he'll kill the Duke himself. Sebastian replies that talking about killing His Highness only proves Ernst has lost his mind. Ernst answers that he won't waste another word on him. Sebastian should leave now because he's only there to kill Damien. Sebastian responds that it's bold of him to say he'll spare him. The protagonist doesn't really care about any of this. He could probably kill everyone there, but he's just enjoying the scene, realizing that these mid-rank knights are better than he expected. Ernst then says it would be arrogant to claim he was stronger than Sebastian in the past, but now he's completely different. When Sebastian notices the marks on his body, he realizes the fool has been using dark magic. McDonald confirms it, saying Ernst used the same procedure that made Guillermo powerful. It drastically increased Ernst's strength and mana. Ernst shouts for Sebastian to open his eyes as his aura swells, saying that now he'll finally show the power he's gained. Sebastian looks slightly shaken, and Ernst declares that this is the end for him. He unleashes an attack shaped like a purple cross, and the entire forest is ripped apart. The protagonist stands to the side, just staring at the massive crater left behind. Ernst is smiling. But where's the other guy? Is he really dead? Then someone speaks up, saying that the power of that attack was truly impressive. Everyone is startled as Sebastian appears completely unharmed, saying he's not as weak as they think. An attack like that was never going to work. Even as he says that, he's thinking to himself that he doesn't know how many more of those he can take. He tells the protagonist to leave the area and go get help from Adam. The protagonist says that's fine. Really? I thought he could wipe everyone out. No, he's doing the classic move, letting things get bad so he can come back and save the day later. Of course, Rebecca and the others are there to kill him, so they don't let him leave and order Ernst to attack. Sebastian interrupts, striking Ernst's lance and forcing him to defend, warning him that today he's going to die there. While the two are consumed by pure hatred, the protagonist is already far away, running to grab Victor, but one of them goes after him. McDonald says the idiot thought he could escape, but the protagonist just smiles, thinking they're the real idiots. He places Victor up in a tree and says he wouldn't be able to fight properly if Sebastian were watching. But now he can finish this quickly, and then go back to save Vincenzo. The two are surprised for a moment, but McDonald starts laughing, saying it's hilarious that the kid thinks he can defeat both of them alone. He tells Rebecca to step back, saying he'll crush this brat's arrogance himself. He throws his arms up and begins transforming, turning into a mass of strange tentacles. He introduces himself as the vice captain of the Yoan forces, Mustang Fury, and says that Rebecca is also a vice captain. Now the protagonist realizes that the two he thought were just officers are actually far more powerful figures. He says that if McDonald can transform his body like that, he must belong to the Frenzy faction. McDonald looks surprised and says that, if that's the case, he'll see just how strong the boy really is. He lunges in with a punch, and instead of dodging, the protagonist raises his arms to block it. He obviously takes a massive hit, smoke rising through the forest as the guy laughs, saying it's unbelievable that Damien managed to withstand that. And Damien actually looks genuinely concerned now. Not only did the guy have insane destructive power, he was also ridiculously fast, clearly above the mid-tier level. A barrage of tentacles comes flying from every direction. Damien dodges but ends up with his back against a tree, and there's another explosive punch coming straight at his face. But right then, he activates the Myriad Vision, lightly slaps the incoming arm and redirects the punch. That was the result of all the elixirs he'd been stealing from the Duke while training. McDonald scoffs, saying those tricks are cheap, but Damien keeps dodging with precise taps, then goes for his sword and unleashes a rapid sequence of slashes. Good grief. The guy is basically turned into sashimi. McDonald is stunned, wondering how someone of such a low rank could be this strong. Of course, it wasn't going to be that easy. McDonald starts regenerating, saying Damien really does have incredible strength, but those tricks are useless. After all, Dark Mana Knights have unparalleled regeneration. Damien smiles and says he was worried this would end too quickly, but now it's getting much better. It's only fun when you can go all out. The scene cuts back to the forest, completely shredded and destroyed, as Ernst launches another attack at Vincenzo, who barely manages to dodge. Sebastian is already worn down, while Ernst comments that he's clearly suffering. Still, he admits Sebastian has dealt quite a bit of damage, proving he's a respectable opponent. Sebastian replies that to him, it's shameful to struggle against someone empowered by dark magic. Ernst says those words no longer matter. Sebastian is going to die here today. Sebastian knows that, unfortunately, all he can do right now is endure. Explosions echo in the distance, and he prays Damien arrives quickly. Back to Damien's fight. Just after he said it would be a shame if this ended too fast, he taps his sword again, sending out vibrating waves. McDonald mocks him, saying the kid thinks too highly of himself. Let's see if he can dodge this. The creature gathers a massive, over-the-top power, giant energy sphere, spirit bomb vibes, beam attack, everything launched straight at Damien. But Damien simply uses the vibrating sword, completely dispersing the attack. McDonald can't understand how that's even possible. In the next instant, Damien is already beside him, carving into his chest with another flurry of slashes. Once again, McDonald smiles, saying Damien still won't be able to win. Damien doesn't care. He keeps attacking as McDonald collapses and begins regenerating again. But then, something's off. The regeneration starts to slow down. The most obvious explanation comes up. Regeneration consumes dark mana, so once that mana runs out, it won't work anymore. McDonald has no idea how Damien knows so much about them. Damien just says it doesn't matter. He'll simply cut his head off now that he won't come back to life. That's when McDonald laughs and says Damien is so focused on him that he forgot Rebecca is still there. At that moment, Rebecca activates a purple glow in her hand and casts Instant Death, a 7-circle spell. The demon-like presence is already behind Damien, and both of them smile, convinced this is the end for him. But suddenly, a mark appears on Damien's arm. The summoned entity starts writing in agony, and then vanishes. Both of them are left confused, unable to understand what just happened, as Damien calmly asks whether that pathetic spell was their final move. McDonald wants to know how it's possible that Damien survived that ability, which was the culmination of all the knowledge of Yoan. It was a technique that should have killed even a high-rank individual. The protagonist just laughs, calling them disgusting creatures. He says they talk about secret techniques as if they don't know that dark magic is nothing more than a parasitic power that feeds on other people's souls to grow stronger. And now he's come up with an interesting idea, using the very power they love so much to kill them. At that moment, Dark mana pours out of the protagonist, and in the blink of an eye, the two of them are trapped in an empty world. Damien says he's certain that worms like them have never seen anything on this level. It's a 9-circle spell, pure darkness, nothing else. The two of them start trembling as Damien casually flicks a finger back. Absolute madness. They're crushed together like something straight out of Jujutsu Kaisen and completely erased. Damien just stands there, calm and composed. Drops of blood fall onto Victor, and he suddenly wakes up asking, "Where am I?" Damien says there's something strange on his face. When Victor touches it, sees the blood, and gets startled, he promptly faints again. Damien thinks he probably should have asked where Dorgo was before killing those two, but it's fine, there's another way to find out. Energy flows from his hand, and from a puddle on the ground, 2 purple orbs rise up. He's extracting information from summoned souls. The 2 little souls tremble as he orders them to tell him everything they know. The scene shifts back to Sebastian, who gets stabbed in the chest again and slammed into the wall along with his armor. Even so, he stubbornly tries to stay on his feet. Ernst approaches, saying that unfortunately, everything is going to end here. Sebastian is in shock, thinking he's about to die when someone praises him, saying he held out quite well. Of course, it's Damien. Ernst looks over and says the bastard finally showed up. He was already planning to kill him, and now that he's here, it'll be even quicker. Damien doesn't even bother asking if he truly believes that. He's standing there with the 2 orbs in his hands as Ernst says he doesn't know where that confidence comes from, but he's had enough. Ernst charges with his lance, saying Damien is going to die now. The attack is about to hit his face, but Damien simply breaks his hand, and suddenly Ernst freezes. Ernst has no idea what just happened. Sebastian, still up in the tree, is just as confused. When Damien opens his hand, all the dark magic begins to pour out of Ernst's body along with the orbs. Ernst rapidly withers down until there's barely anything left of him. He collapses face first onto the ground. Damien thinks to himself that the fool didn't even know that if your soul is controlled by a dark mage, the moment that mage dies, you vanish as well. Sebastian is confused, and Damien explains that it looks similar to what happened to Guillermo, the effect of dark magic leaving the body. Sebastian gets up and agrees that it does seem that way, especially since he didn't even land the finishing blow. But then he asks what happened to the other dark mages. Damien helps him to his feet and says that for now, it's better for them to return to the Duke's territory, and he'll explain everything later. The next day, Adam says that, just as he expected, this happened, and he thanks Sebastian for protecting the boy. Sebastian replies that that's not really what happened. In the end, he's alive thanks to Damien. Adam then thanks Damien, saying that, as always, he's the one dealing with the dark mages for him. The protagonist says he only did what was necessary and that they were lucky those people weren't that skilled. And the moment he killed the ones who were using dark magic, Sir Ernst lost his power and disappeared, so they really did get lucky. Adam says he understands, but there are very few people in this world who could pull something like that off. He shouldn't underestimate himself so much. At least now, the souls that were taken by them can finally rest. I still don't know whether Adam is actually sad about Chelsea's death or not. The protagonist, however, doesn't care at all. He just says that now that everything's settled, he's going back home. For the love of God, Adam asks him to stay a little longer. Let the guy go already. Adam adds that there's someone he needs to meet. And there she is, folks. Look at that perfect angle. Look at how she comes walking in, saying she missed our boy. He jumps in surprise, and she says she couldn't wait to hit the like button on that video that helps Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers. Activate the cheeky little bell, and I'm out.